Okay, we are now going to call this meeting to order at 6:03. We are going to begin with roll call. Alex Cecil, or Senator Cecil. Senator Momini. Senator Gopa. Senator Kamstra. Senator Moy. Senator Chenoweth. Senator Mahoney.
Here.
Senator Braun. Senator Everhart. Senator Lambertson. Senator Guerrero. Senator Janes. Senator Eisma. Senator Byers. Senator Becker. Senator Kuehler. Senator Agba. Speaker Margaret.
Here.
Senator Leese. Senator Dre. Senator Wellman. Okay. And with that, we have quorum. We will now move into the Pledge of Allegiance with Speaker Margaret.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We currently have no minutes to approve, so we will move into committee reports. Oh my goodness, I skipped all the way down. Okay, I lied. We are going to go into programs. Beginning with the State of the Student Body with President Roberts. And for programs, I will ask all senators to close their screens, please, to give our speakers our full attention.
4.5 hours. This won't be that long, I promise. But our campus is entering an exciting time period. Student engagement is increasing. The relationship between university faculty and students is being strengthened. The Big 12 is growing with the addition of the University of Cincinnati, University of Houston, University of Central Florida, and Brigham Young University officially joining us this fall. As we decide what our organization's priorities and focus are for the next year, we must keep one word in the forefront of our minds: growth. As the number of student organizations increase, as well as their membership, so will your responsibility to represent and advocate. This organization has the chance to serve as the example as we grow Iowa State University to be a place where each student finds success. Jennifer and I have focused our administration on 4 areas where we believe we can make the most impact over this next year: empowerment, academics, community, and health. It is now time for each of you to determine how you can best serve the students. As committees begin forming and projects are started, it is important for you to reach out and connect with those passionate about similar issues on campus. Maybe you have your own idea for an initiative that solves a campus concern that you have seen. It is important to remember that your term is shorter than you think. We have less than a year to create a positive impact here at Iowa State, but that thought shouldn't scare you. This room is filled with people who are ready to make a difference, people who are going to push you to be better and achieve more than you thought possible. Over the next year, take time to appreciate the opportunity you've been given. You will have an influence that can be used to truly leave Iowa State a wonderful place to be. Together, student government can be the organization that grows the positive impact attending Iowa State University has on our peers. Thank you, and roll clones. You don't have any questions about that, do you? If you do, it's okay. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, we will now move into our second program of the night with advisor updates from Sophia Sarver.
Hello everyone, my name is Sophia Sarver. I go by Sophie. I use she, her pronouns.
and I am your full-time student government advisor. So as per the bylaws, once a year during the first session, I give a presentation on a little bit about what I do here for all of you, and then also some of my campus involvement. And so yeah, I will be moving forward. So hello again, my name is Sophie. I am from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So if you ever want to talk to me about Pittsburgh sports, I really don't pay attention, but sometimes when they're doing well, I actually know. I have 2 cats, which I talk about a little bit too much. They're in the photo there. And then if you ever want to find something that we potentially have in common, I like board games and video games and reading and arts and crafts and trying to keep my plants alive in my office. If you've been in my office recently, you know that that is not going well. If you ever want to try to find my office, if you go to the first floor of the Memorial Union, the building we're currently in, and you find Panda Express, you just turn to the left. And right through there is the Office of Student Engagement, and that is where I work, and you can see if I'm available. Okay, so who do I advise in this organization? The executive branch, the legislative branch, and then as far as the judicial branch, I advise the election commissioner and the chief justice. I am not the primary advisor for the Student Supreme Court. However, I do offer any support for whatever they need because they're also a member of the organization. So I mainly do weekly or bi-weekly meetings with all of the chief officers. So the chief officers are your president, vice president, speaker, vice speaker, finance director, chief of staff, and your chief justice. Beyond that, I meet with cabinet members, senators like yourselves, and just pretty much anyone in the organization that has any questions. So as far as what you could have questions about, we can move into my job responsibilities. So as I was saying, I am here to provide support to all of you for the various projects and activities that you are doing in the organization, and help you set organizational goals and priorities and just like general day-to-day operations for all of you. I help all of you in your event and program planning, and then any type of initiatives that you're working on. And then I attend meetings like Senate, Cabinet, Election Commission, committees, student meetings. I kind of forgot all the meetings that I go to, but it's, you can tally them up, it's a lot. You guys do, all of you do a lot of things. So if we want to move on. Some other things that I do outside of student government is I am a part of the Memorial Union Department. So I work for the building. Student engagement is a part of the Memorial Union. So I go to their management team meetings, any type of meetings that they have as well. And then beyond that, I like to collaborate and work with other campus community members and campus staff members just on the various things that all of you are doing and trying to help all of you facilitate good working relationships with people across campus. And then if you plan any type of events, activities, or are mainly chief officers and directors will work with me on a variety of things like event authorization, mass emails, student organization database, upkeep. So that also includes like compliance agreements, anything that has to do with student organization travel, trademark, workday, and then another variety of things that I have to approve as your advisor that I make sure that all of you understand before you submit or help you submit those processes. And then what do I do outside of student government? So I'm on a few MU committees and then some campus-wide things as well. So I'm on the MU's DEI committee. I'm the chair of the professional development committee. I'm also on the student organization policy review committee. I am a professional and scientific council member. So that is like student government, but for professional and scientific staff here at Iowa State. So I go to those meetings once a month and advocate for my fellow staff members. And then I just completed the Student Affairs Leadership Institute this year, which was like a one-year program where I got to know more people in the division and got to talk about a variety of things and meet some really great people. So that's a lot of what I do. I hope that we will be able to get a lot of really cool stuff done, and I hope that I'm able to help you in whatever projects and things that you're planning on doing in the future, because I want to see all of you succeed, and I am here to help support you and the organization. So, do you have any questions?
Are there any questions for our advisor? If there are none, thank you, Sophie. We will now be moving into open forum. Open forum is a time which shall serve as an opportunity for students to speak about issues relevant to the student body. Any student that is here for open forum may approach the podium now. Please state your name, major, and college, and then you have 10 minutes at the podium.
Hi, everyone. I'm pretty sure everyone knows me here, but I'll introduce myself again. My name is Eddie Mahoney. I am a master's student in computer science in the Graduate College. This isn't a roast or anything. I'm not saying anything weird. I just want to kind of bring something to light that I don't think a lot of people do know about student government, and that it's student government is representative of all students, both undergraduates and graduate students. So I think sometimes we kind of forget that we do represent graduate students as well. So on Monday, I was actually elected to be the vice president of the graduate student body. And so one of the things that I'm going to work on really hard over the next year is to increase the collaboration between student government and GPSS, which is the Graduate and Professional Student Senate. They're the representative body of graduate students, and we are peers in a lot of ways. We have a really esoteric and weird document called the Articles of Cooperation that definitely needs some updating over the course of the next year or so. But I do want to just tell everyone about that, keep it in mind, that we're all representing all students, and what is a concern of undergraduate students should be a concern of graduate students, and what is a concern of graduate students should be a concern of undergraduate students. We are one student body, we are all Cyclones, and it's just something I want to keep in mind over the course of the next year.
Is there anybody else here for open forum? Seeing none, we shall move into adopting the agenda.
Madam President, that is loud. I move to add items 2023-1-021SC, 2023-1-023SG, and 2023-1-024SD to the bottom of special orders.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, they shall be added.
Madam President, I move to add items 2023-1-007J, 2023-1-008F, and 2023-1-009F to the bottom of new business.
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, they shall be added. We are now back on adopting the agenda as a whole.
I move to adopt tonight's agenda.
Objection. I'm sorry.
I withdraw.
Madam President, I move to bring item 2023-1-018SC, confirming a nominee for Director of Governmental Affairs, to before item 2023-1-014SG, confirming or seating senators to the Finance Committee.
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, it shall be moved. We are now back on adopting the agenda as a whole.
Madam President, I move to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
Are there any objections to adopting tonight's agenda? Seeing none, it shall be adopted. We will now move into the approval of minutes. Seeing as we have no minutes, we are going to move over this portion and move into committee reports, beginning with rules.
Hi, everyone. We don't have a lot of updates for rules because we didn't meet this week because we don't have a committee, but we want to change that tonight, so we'll be seeing a bill later on to seat people to the, I almost said to the Finance Committee. That'll happen too, but you'll see people for the Rules Committee. I also do apologize. We had to do some weird things to keep the agenda current tonight, and you're going to hear my voice a lot because A lot of nomination bills tonight are typically offered by the speaker. So the goal in future weeks is to have more diverse bills on the floor, but tonight is a lot of nomination bills. So I wish people would stop messaging me on Teams, but I think that's what I have, so I yield.
Are there any questions for our Rules Committee? Seeing none, we shall go into our Finance Committee reports.
Hi, everyone. Not a lot to report. Kit and I met with some clubs yesterday, just to kind of go over the bills that are introduced for finance today. It's pretty straightforward. There might be a little bit more discussion on the Water Conservation Club funding with the publication and the trip to Des Moines, but that's all I have.
Are there any questions for our Finance Committee? Seeing none, we currently have no other committees sat, so we will move into comments from the judicial branch.
Hi, everyone. This is Charles Taylor. I believe that we're doing something with the Election Commission, Shane. And yes, we haven't met recently, so that's about it. Thank you.
Are there any questions for our judicial branch? Seeing none, we shall move into comments from our advisor.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to my presentation earlier. If you ever would like to chat about anything, even in the upcoming weeks, please let me know. You all have my contact information. Beyond that, if you were on the student government listserv, first of all, if you're not, please let me know. I have added the people that have asked me, so you will be on all future communications. But if you did not receive that, please let me know. Beyond that, I sent an email about the door, one of my favorite topics to talk with all of you about, telling you if you are a new member to the organization, how we can get you on the door almost to at least be able to get into the student government office with checking out a key through student engagement. So if you read through that and you were like, I have no idea what you're talking about or would like help, please let me know. I'm happy to try to figure out better wording to make sure it's pretty clear on what needs to happen. It is a complicated multi-step process, and I apologize for that, but it's what we kind of have to do. So other than that, we're kind of winding things down for this semester, but as this being our last Senate meeting for the year, kind of exciting. If you ever want to talk about anything, like during the summer, if you're working on any projects or anything, this is my full-time job. I am here during the summer in this building. So I'm always happy to meet with you over Zoom, or if you happen to be in Ames and you want to set up a meeting. I do kind of change my hours a little bit just to allow greater evening availability, because I do know a lot of you go off and do like internships or jobs or in multiple time zones. So I want to be as accommodating as possible for all of you. But sorry, this was kind of long, and I hope you have a good meeting.
Are there any questions for our advisor? Seeing none, we shall move into comments from the executive branch.
Hi, all. It's me again. Surprise. Jennifer and I kind of had a busy week. Monday, we joined the men of Alpha Gamma Rho for their Women's Appreciation Dinner. It's kind of neat to get to interact with student organizations a little more personally. I attended City Council last night. The increased fines will continue for Cyclone Welcome Weekend this upcoming year. They were voted on and passed this week. We had lunch with President Winterstein and Dr. Younger today, with the outgoing president, Jacob Ludwig, and outgoing vice president, Jane Ulrich. Nice fancy dinner if you've ever been to the Knoll. It's actually really nice. It was my first time. I have athletics council tomorrow. Jennifer and I will be meeting with Provost Wickert next Monday, and I have Student Engagement President's Council meeting next Wednesday. And then Board of Regents will be meeting June 14th, I believe. So Jennifer and I will be in attendance at that meeting as well.
Are there any questions for our executive branch? Seeing none, we shall move into external matters, beginning with 2023-1-001F, St. Jude's debt contract with Senator Eisma. Seeing as Senator Eisma is not here, we shall send it to Senator Mahoney.
fun. I get to introduce one of the more weird finance bills we do. I don't know, FD Hirsch, are you prepared to speak on? Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll pass my opening speaking privileges over to FD Hirsch then.
Yeah, just for the debt contract, it's around $1,300. We met with St. Jude and discussed ways of fundraising and being able to pay that off. Both Kit and I have agreed that there's going to be no issue with them repaying us. It's pretty straightforward. I don't have any issue with it.
So just to kind of explain how or why a debt or what a debt contract is, basically when we allocate funds to an organization, we fund it at specific line items. If they accidentally spend those funds wrongly, more or less, on different line items, at the end of the year when COA does their audits, they'll scrape money back and pull it back to us if they were spent on different things. So at some point in the past, we gave them money, they spent it not on the line items we funded them for, COA gave the money back to us, they now have no money. So basically this is to give them money to continue to operate, and they will pay us back for the money that they spent not according to the line items we originally funded them for. So that's basically what happens in a debt contract, or why they exist. But I will ask, do we have a nominee or representative from St. Jude here?
They were supposed to show up. We told them like around 6:15, 6:20, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll open the floor to debate and yield.
The floor is now open to discussion. Are there any questions or discussion at this time? Okay.
In the meantime.
Senator Janes.
So just to clarify, so the reason that they got into this debt is just they spent the money on the wrong, on the incorrect line items that like student government gave them the budget for. Do we know if they've like fixed that practice so that won't happen in future spendings? I know that might be more of them.
I was like, they're on their way. Usually with debt contracts, though, we do if it's because they overspend in a line item that is reevaluated at annual allocations. But I'm going to let Jack talk about it. Go to the podium, Jack. Sorry. You're doing great. Way to throw you on the spot.
All right, sorry about that.
Senator Janes, will you re-ask your question, please?
Yeah, so I don't know if I misunderstood the story, but you got into this debt because you accidentally spent it on like the wrong line item, or you did that. What practices have you established to make sure this incident doesn't happen again, to make sure you keep everything straight?
I think a problem that happened last year was a lack of communication with our finance director. That was the only thing that kind of swayed this situation to happen. So we've done a lot better this job of keeping track of all of our finances and making sure that we're staying under budget just to be safe, just in case, so then this doesn't happen to us again. And I wanted to apologize as well. First for being late. I thought it was 6:30, not 5:30, but that's completely on me. And then also for not being aware of this at the time being. It was brought to my attention recently, and I try to do the best with the information I was given to try to make sure that this situation doesn't happen in the future for our next executive directors.
Senator Becker.
Given the charitable nature of your organization, would paying this back be kind of harmful to what you got going on, or could you guys afford to pay this back?
We can afford to pay it back. I would say the only thing that's going to make it a mishap for us is usually when we do some of those levy restaurant fundraisers, the money we raise for it just goes to our fundraising page. So instead of it going to that, it'll just go to this to make sure that we stay in good standings.
Okay, thanks. I yield.
Senator Janes.
Building off of that, do you see that there could be any, like with paying in it, any harm to donations because they'd be like seeing it as that, or would you just, like, you have to change how you would define those donations and what they'd be going to?
We still have a bunch of different fundraisers and donation strategies that we work with. Our board does a really good job of fundraising a lot of money itself, but then we do a bunch of different fundraisers with local companies and restaurants that also help us benefit as well. So I don't think it would be an issue.
I yield my time.
Are there any further questions or comments at this time? Um,
Yeah, so St. Jude basically is a children's research hospital down in Memphis, Tennessee, where kids who are given cancer basically go there and receive treatment, and the families don't receive a single bill for it. So all the money that St. Jude uses needs to be donated or sponsored to them. So the past 4 years now, I've been on the executive board and now the executive director for it. So that's pretty much it.
Does she want to? Quinn? Recess for 5 minutes.
Yeah, Madam President, I move to recess for 5 minutes.
do we have a second?
Second.
Are there any objections? Seeing none, we shall, do we need to vote on that? No. Okay, we shall recess for 5 minutes and begin back at 6:35. Okay. My mic was on that whole time. With that, we will now begin the meeting again. We were in discussion of the St. Jude debt contract. Speaker Margaret.
Okay, just for a moment of context of what we're doing is we need to get enough people here to have 2/3 of seated senators to pass this because it's a contract. And so given that we don't have that, but someone's on their way, I'm going to move to table this bill for 30 minutes or 20 minutes. We're gonna make it 20 minutes. I move to table this.
Second.
Okay. Senator James.
I move to add Senator Isma to the roll.
Are there any objections to adding Senator Eisma to the roll? Seeing none, he shall be added. We are now back on the motion to postpone the St. Jude debt contract. Are there any objections? Seeing none, it shall be tabled for now. We will now be moving into 2023-1-002F, funding Destination Iowa State Meals with Senator Eisma.
Hi there. Sorry, firstly, apologies about being late. My study abroad class took far longer. Most importantly, funding DIS meals. They're asking for $3,000 for, if you can read the bill, no student shall pay more than $5 per meal during the event. Therefore, they are asking for $3,000 from the state Senate discretionary account to be added to that. And then do we have a representative from DIS here? If you wanted to approach, please do.
Thank you all for having me. My name is Jordan Baumgartner. I am the Assistant Director for Destination Iowa State. And this bill happened last year, and it was meant for students that don't have a meal plan, because that's how many of our students are fed throughout Destination Iowa State. And so a lot of those are transfer students. And so I want to provide a little bit of some numbers for you to help you understand the impact of this. So last year we had 320 new transfer students attend Destination Iowa State. Of those, 271 meals were provided for those students. And why that matters is because it helps them in their transition to Iowa State by keeping them here on campus, which allows them to get connected with other students, which allows them to be provided with the necessary resources. They're not having to leave and come back to campus. And so it's a way for them to be able to be provided food and stay on campus to make those connections. That impacts that retention rate. And so our 2021 incoming transfer class had a retention rate of 84%. This impacts that and allows that to go up because we are able to impact those numbers and create those necessary connections that allow for the retention and the successful transition of these students.
Okay, we will now open the floor for discussion, beginning with Senator Janes.
Yeah, so for these meals, how many meals do they get? Like, would it be per day? What is that like?
Yeah, so last year we provided the students that didn't have a meal plan 2 meal passes for the dining centers. And so, like I said, 271 meal passes were used during that time.
Thank you. I yield my time.
Is there any further discussion on this bill?
Call the question.
Second.
Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, it is a finance bill, so we will go into a roll call vote, beginning with Senator Cecil. Senator Mominy? Yes. Senator Chenoweth?
Yes.
Senator Mahoney?
Yes.
Senator Braun?
Yes.
Senator Everhart? Yes. Senator Janes? Yes. Senator Eisma?
Yes.
Senator Becker? Yes. Senator Kuehler, Speaker Margaret,
Yes.
Senator Lees, Senator Wellman. With a vote of 13 to 0, this bill passes.
Madam President, I move to add Senator Camstra to the roll.
Are there any objections to adding Senator Camstra to the roll? Seeing none, he shall be added.
Madam President, I move to consider 2023-1-001F and take it up from the table.
Are there any objections to moving in to consider 2023-1-001F? Seeing none, we shall open with discussion again. Is there any further discussion on this bill as a whole? Question has been called for. Is there a second? Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, closing comments with Senator Eisma. None. We shall now move into roll call vote since it is a finance bill. Beginning with Senator Cecil.
Yes, adopts the contract that they can have the money in place by.
Senator Momini. Senator Camstra. Senator Chenoweth. Senator Mahoney.
Yes.
Senator Braun. Senator Everhart. Senator Janes. Senator Eisma. Senator Becker. Senator Kuehler. Speaker Margaret.
Yes.
Senator Lees. Senator Wellman. With a vote of 14 to 0, this bill passes. Okay, we will now be moving into 2023-1-004F, funding Cardinal Eats with Senator Eisma.
Well, hi again, everybody. Cardinal Eats, if you don't know what that is, it is if I recall, it is a food print magazine for a bunch of food things that get distributed through campus. Do we have a representative of Cardinal Eats here? I will take that as a no. If anyone has any questions, I will do my best.
The floor is now open for any questions or discussion, beginning with Senator Camstra.
Do you know if they had any budgeting in their own formal budget for this? Because I'm guessing I looked up this last week and they print this every year, so I don't know if they planned for this and they're just doing an extra one, or why they're coming to us for this $3,000. Do you know?
Not that I can recall. Martin, would you have any additional information?
Cardinal Eats was not at the meeting yesterday with Kit and I. I know we'll fund up to $3,000 per semester per publication, just $3,000 per semester for printing. So I know it's in our we can fund it. I'm not sure if it was a failure to register it or not. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
So they do 2 publications a year, and we funded them at least, I think, for the last 3. We funded them sometime in the fall, and then last year, in the previous term, I know we funded them both times. So we do have a history of giving $3,000 each time for each publication.
Sounds good. I yield.
Senator Mahoney.
More or less, I was going to ask FD Hirsch if there was a chance to at least have the conversation with Cardinal Eats. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Cardinal Eats, the magazine. It does get put into the office every time they print it. Unfortunately, I don't know where the previous publication went. It was in the office for a long time. But it is always a really, really cool thing. It gets pretty widely distributed. I think our $3,000 gets like 400 or 500 copies, if I remember correctly, and they get disseminated across campus, and they end up in a lot of people's hands. I think it's one of the cooler things we have funded in the past, and we do have a history of funding it. So normally I would be very, very wary of funding somebody when there's not a representative here. But given that I've seen basically this exact bill 3 or 4 times in my tenure as a senator, I'm not really that wary of funding them the $3,000. They always do really cool things with it.
Senator Becker.
I actually have the opposite opinion. I agree, like, it's cool to fund it, but I would love to just wait to fund this until the first meeting in the fall. I think we should hear from them a little more specifics, like how many copies does this actually buy us? What are their plans? Why have they not been able to generate any money in the past few years? Like, why do we have to keep paying the full $3,000? Like, is there no reason that they could fundraise on their own and our contribution could go down until they're self-funding? So I agree, it's a cool organization, but I would just like to hear from them and get some details on like what this money is actually going towards. I yield.
Senator Kuehler.
I'll yield to President Roberts.
I just want to throw it out there, not like negating that point. I just want everybody to have all the facts. One, as a reminder, all bills die today that don't pass. Additionally, the fiscal year will end in June, so we will be on our new budget for next year. So just remember that as we like think about finance bills, we will be on an entirely different budget next year.
And I have a question either for Senator Eisma or FD Hirsch. Does this organization need this money now? Could they afford to wait until the fall? That is my concern with waiting. Essentially, when is this publication? I don't know who has the answer for that.
I'm assuming they probably need the funding as soon as possible. Yeah, I would say so, because I don't think these things happen overnight either. They have estimates. They have a person that's going to be printing it out. I would assume they probably need the money before next Senate.
That makes sense, and I also agree. I think not having a representative here isn't exactly great, but given the fact that they most likely need this money now, and we funded them in the past, and the amount is the same, I'm comfortable voting yes and giving them the money that they need. I yield.
Senator Becker.
Yeah, I rescind my comment. If they can't do it without getting it today, then we should just do it today.
Senator Mahoney.
My thought would be table it for now, and then if, in case we can get somebody here to talk about it, and if we can't, we'll pick it back up before the end of the meeting and revisit it then. So I'm going to move to table the bill.
A motion has been placed and seconded to table this bill. Are there any objections to tabling it at this time? Seeing none, it shall be tabled. We will now move into internal matters, general orders. Seeing as none, we will move into special orders 2023-1-013 SD, confirming the nomination of a vet med senator with Senator Mahoney.
So we're finally filling a vet med seat, and I'm so excited because it didn't get filled at all last year, and I tried hard. So I will ask Jacob to go up to the podium. We actually heard him in Rules Committee last semester, and he passed favorably UC out of last semester's Rules Committee. So I'll just kind of let him talk about same thing we kind of talked about in Rules Committee.
All right, sounds great. Hey everyone, I'm Jacob Reichert. I'm a second-year vet student at Iowa State, and I'm learning to practice small animal medicine. I've spent my 4 years in undergrad here at Iowa State as well, studying animal science. And now at the vet school, I'm involved in the surgery club, which allows me to do wet labs and get to speak with guest lecturers and kind of pick their minds a little bit. And then I'm also the social chair of the RSR committee, which is the Recreation Services and Relaxation Club. So I'm basically responsible for handling all of the social media websites and what we post on there and letting students know about future events, and also helping with the organization and setting up of those, as well as posting about them and trying to convince people that we're not as miserable as we look. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing for the last 6 years. I heard about the Senate through a graduate student, sorry, I'm blanking on his name, even though he's one of my best friends, F. Naeem. And I've just kind of been looking for a way to better serve not only the student body, but also my fellow peers at the vet school. So this was what I thought was going to be a great opportunity to do that. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me, but that's kind of just the little summary.
The floor is now open for any questions or discussion, beginning with Senator Janes.
First thing is I move to remove Senator Leslie from the roll.
Are there any objections to removing Senator Lease from the roll? Seeing none, he shall be removed.
And then for a question for you, I know VetMed, from the few people I've talked to, takes a lot of time, especially I hear you're part of leadership of 2 other organizations. How do you balance that, the time commitments that you already have with the time commitments that Senate will need?
So a lot of sleepless nights for sure, but honestly, it hasn't been too bad. I've kind of been, that was kind of what first year was all about, was just kind of figuring out that work-life balance and being able to make sure that I'm participating and actually there for those events. So I've gotten pretty good at just kind of, putting aside homework when I need to and prioritizing certain classes over others, as well as, getting things done in time for when I need to be present for those particular meetings and events. That being said, it sure has been hard sometimes, especially whenever, finals roll up or we have these, 4 or 5 weeks where we have 2 exams in a row, but so far I've been able to make it work and I intend to keep it that way.
I yield the rest of my time.
Senator Kuehler.
I know you answered this question in your Rules Committee hearing, but for the benefit of the body, what committees are you considering joining?
Yeah, so as we spoke before, Mason, I'm interested in joining the Health and Wellness Services Committee. I haven't had a whole lot of time to kind of delve into the other committees, but I'm looking forward to learning more about them and helping out in those where I can, in those that interest me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that. I yield.
Are there any further questions or discussion at this time?
Second.
Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Before we do that, closing comments? No closing comments. UC has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections? Seeing none, congratulations. This bill passes.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, stay up there and you will get confirmed in just now.
Sorry. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I don't get behind podiums very often.
I also don't.
Yeah.
And because of not going up often, I also don't remember this that well, so I'm going to use this.
Beautiful.
All right.
Great.
All right. So.
Do we need to bring up the Bible out or anything like that?
Huh?
Do we need to bring up the Bible out or anything like that?
No. You can raise your right hand. All right. You're going to repeat after me.
All right.
Okay. So, I solemnly swear or affirm.
I solemnly swear or affirm.
To execute the duties of my position.
To execute the duties of my position.
As prescribed in the Constitution.
As prescribed in the Constitution.
And laws of the government.
And laws of the government.
For the benefit of all students.
For the benefit of all students. Thanks, guys.
We will now be moving into 2023-1-00022 SD, confirming the nomination of an off-campus senator with Speaker Margaret.
Firstly, I am sorry for the amendments. We will fix this bill so it makes sense. But secondly, I'd like to add just one bit of context for new senators, which is the nominee that we just saw. We saw them, so to speak, at Rules Committee, so that means we had an opportunity to discuss with them what the role meant and answer some questions, and we could vote on whether we wanted to send them favorably, and in their case, we did. Due to not having a Rules Committee right now, but UROC having nominees, we haven't seen these people in Rules Committee. So that's just to say, just like you would with any other bill, let's ask them thoughtful questions and hopefully better understand who they are and why they're interested in our organization, because we haven't had any of that vetting. I hesitate to call it that, but it is what it is. So if we have, I believe this bill, once we amend it, is one nominee. So if that nominee wants to come towards the front and maybe you can introduce yourself and say, your year, your major, anything like that, and share why you're interested in student government.
The amendments have been moved and seconded. Are there any objections? Seeing none, they shall be amended.
Okay.
this? I'm just short. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline Sonato. I'm a first year here. My major is industrial design, and I have a minor in sustainability. I'm currently on the Friley Hall Senate right now. I serve as the president of my hallway, and I've enjoyed being part of that. But I'm moving off campus next year, so I wanted to stay a part of like student organizations, but since I'm moving off campus, I can't be a part of IRHA, but this was a good opportunity for me, so yeah.
Okay, the floor is now open for discussion, beginning with Senator Cecil.
Hi, we just came from a meeting where we nominated you. You seemed great in there, but just to get it out of the way, we have a lot of committees: Sustainability Committee, Health and Wellness, Student something, SI Committee. Do you have any interest in any specific committees, or just are you sure?
I'd be open to anything, but I'm definitely interested in the Sustainability Committee.
Senator Kuehler.
All right, here's the inevitable time commitments question. So position can be a little time consuming, so how do you plan to balance your time commitments as a senator?
Regarding time commitment, I'm taking like 17 hours next semester, but I should have really open, like flexible evenings, so I think I'll be able to consistently be at meetings and stuff, and I'm good at time management and getting my assignments done on time, so I think it shouldn't be a problem.
All right, thank you very much. I yield.
Senator Janes. Yes, we can take that as a friendly.
And then for a question for you, with you just now moving on to off-campus living, what's your strategy to make sure you are connected and know the needs of off-campus when you be entering that year?
I don't really know how to answer that.
I guess, are you friends with people who live off-campus?
Oh, yeah, I definitely am. I have a lot of friends that live in Union. I'll be living there next semester, so. And then I'm part of the honors college here, so a lot of students there move off campus their second year, so.
Are there any further questions or discussion on the floor at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections? First, we will have closing comments. No closing comments. UC has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections? Seeing none, congratulations. This bill passes. We will now be moving into 2023-1-018 SC, confirming a nominee for. Oh, I apologize.
That's okay. All right, well, raise your right hand and repeat after me, okay? All right, so I solemnly swear or affirm
I solemnly swear or affirm
to execute the duties of my position
to execute the duties of my position
as prescribed in the Constitution
as prescribed in the Constitution
and the laws of the government
and the laws of the government
for the benefit of all students.
for the benefit of all students.
There you
Thank you.
Okay, now we will be going into 2023-1-018 SC, confirming a nominee for Director of Governmental Affairs with Speaker Margaret.
I don't want to have to introduce this one because we might lose a senator, but with that, I yield to our nominee for the Director of Governmental Affairs.
Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline Becker, and I'm seeking nomination for Director of Governmental Affairs. I'm a current sophomore here in Economics and Political Science, but I'm in a concurrent master's program and the honors program, so I feel like I've got a pretty good reach and grasp on this university. My experience for this role is that in high school, I volunteered with my local Chamber of Commerce. I spent one summer campaigning for Rep. David Young. I spent last summer in DC working for Senator Ernst, and I'm headed back out to DC this summer to do private consulting with Deloitte. I would like to say I've had plenty of experience working on both sides of the aisle, and I would love to do that for our university. In terms of the time commitment, yes, I am available Thursday nights when Cabinet will be meeting, and I'm also available Wednesday nights to join all of you. For some ideas I have for the position, we need to get legislative ambassadors up and running before November, and it needs to include non-Senate participants. This is a great way to bring people into our organization, and there's no reason we shouldn't have a person from every college on our legislative ambassador team. I would also like to track federal spending that we receive from the state and the federal governments in the form of a newsletter. So we would be sending that back out to the governments that gave us that money, thanking them for the money we got while asking for more in a subtle, polite way. If you have any other questions, I would love to hear them.
The floor is now open for any questions or discussion, beginning with Senator Janes.
First, I move to add Senator, point of information, how do you pronounce your last name? Senadel to the roll.
Are there any objections to adding Senator Senadel to the roll? Seeing none, she shall be seated.
And then for my question, what are your strategies to help include non-senator or non-student government roles? Like, what's your outreach strategies you have?
Yes, so I spent the last 2 years on PR committee, and what we found is the best way to reach students is just to be out there on the Campanile lawn, yelling at them, talking at them, and giving them free things. So I think what would be awesome for this position would be some tabling, but it needs to be tabling with an incentive. So definitely some kind of motion like that, early August, September, to get people excited.
And then second question I have, can I ask, point of information, can I ask a second question?
Yes.
My second question is, it seems like from your speech that there's going to be a strict timeline to get some of the things done. What's your strategies to help maintain the timeline, especially with you also being transitioned into the position yourself?
Yes, so I think that's the value of summer. You have 2.5 months with no schoolwork, just whatever you're doing for work, to get all of these things done. So what we saw last year was this position was just a little struggle to get the ball rolling. So we just need to go downhill, like velocity-wise, not horribly-wise. But we got to get this up and rolling. And the best way to do that is to contact people quickly and then get people together even faster. We need to be having legislative ambassadors meet once, twice a month, well before November when it's time to take action.
Right. Thank you. I yield my time.
Senator Wellman.
So I currently serve, for those that don't know, I currently serve as a clerk at the State House in Des Moines. So my first question is, what programs or are you going to try and next year during the spring session, are you going to try and work with legislators down there in Des Moines? Because they do a lot of our funding and whatnot through appropriations of funds.
Definitely. So what the Director of Governmental Affairs has done typically for the past few springs is you have an Iowa State Day at the Capitol. So that would be when we bring a lot of students in to talk about students' needs, accomplishments, and those sorts of things. Beyond that, we would like to take students to the State House at least once a month when they are in session. And when they're not in session, I would love to see those politicians and just people related to the offices come to campus. We have a wonderful campus and lots of great things that students are doing for them to see and fund us for.
And then one more thing that I would like to point out is that, last year I served as a page in the legislature as well. And we did have legislative ambassadors there last year. This year we don't. And so I can see the big difference in the disconnect between legislators and Iowa State when you don't have legislative ambassadors. So I think that initiative of getting legislative ambassadors is a very good initiative, and we need to bring it back. So I yield and I support the nominee.
Are there any further questions or discussion at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting? Seeing none, we will go into closing comments with Speaker Margaret. No closing comments, so we will now go into voting. And UC has been called for. Do we have, UC has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes. Woo-hoo. It doesn't? Oh, I thought it did. Oh, okay, great. He says I'm good. Okay. Okay, we will now be moving into 2023-1-014 seating senators to Finance Committee with Speaker Margaret.
I am technically the author on this, but I would yield to Finance Director Hirsch if he would like to make any comments about the appointees to his committee.
Yeah, so we have two appointees, or Senator Wellman and Senator Eisma. I've had the pleasure of serving with Senator Eisma last year on Finance Committee. He did a fantastic job, and I know he'll continue to do that. And then as far as Senator Wellman, we had a great conversation Monday, and he seems like he's really eager to get on the committee, and I know he'll do a good job. So, yeah, I support who I'm nominating.
Wait, what do I say?
Do you want to go first? Sure. You're good. All right, so hi everybody. My name is Colton Eisma. I'm a sophomore majoring in agricultural business with a minor in supply chain. Being a part of the Finance Committee last year, I really enjoyed my time. I love looking at the finances and always being transparent with the Senate, my constituency, as well as all the other constituencies. And any way or any bills that come to Senate, do my best to make sure that they are the most transparent in what they are doing with their money and what they are doing with our money, and then how it's giving back to the campus.
My name is Trey Wellman. I am a sophomore in Ag and Rural Policy Studies. And one of the big things that I kind of want to tackle on finance this year is just making sure that all the student dollars that we receive somehow and in some way are received back by the students to make sure that they have the best experience possible. And hopefully that is a role I can play on the Finance Committee. Thank you.
The floor is now open to any questions or discussions you may have, beginning with Senator Janes.
Yes, Senators, I have a question about how are you guys going to handle having to say no to some organizations or balancing it just due to maybe budgeting constraints you might come onto?
So it really depends on if they're asking for something. For example, within our PNC capital items, we just don't fund those, period. We normally inform them as to the reason why we are saying no, or if we have to, for example, just going over during budget allocations, we had to zero fund a lot of things because what they were budgeting for or what they were asking for were things that we don't fund at all. And so we informed them of other ways that they could possibly find funding around campus, but normally just having to, with the proper explanations as to why we cannot fund it, is kind of the way we tell them no. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I would agree with him. Just make sure that we're transparent with the clubs and the organizations of why we can't fund them, and hopefully still be able to have a working relationship with them afterwards. So.
Yeah. And then a question more for Senator Wellman would be, how familiar are you with the current way that budgeting systems go within Iowa State? And if you aren't that familiar, what strategies are you going to do to help you become informed?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I am not probably the most qualified candidate out of everyone here, but I think having new eyes and having a fresh perspective is important on finance, especially how we fund our dollars. And then also, just making sure that I learn by people who are on it. So Finance Director Marsh, and then Senator Eisma as well, but also all of you, and just getting your perspectives as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I yield.
Are there any further questions or comments at this time? Question has been called for and seconded.
Are we calling on just the bill as a whole?
Yes.
Can I object to that? Well, I can, but I move my amendments.
Okay. A motion and second has been placed to move the amendments as shown on the screen. Are there any objections? Seeing none, the amendment shall be adopted. We are now back on the bill as a whole.
Objection once again.
Okay.
Give me one more. move that amendment. To additionally seat Alex as the second.
Okay, the motion on the screen has been seconded. Are there any objections to adopting it? Seeing none, it shall be adopted. We are now back on the bill as a whole. Yes.
I'll yield
Senator Mahoney.
I will yield time to Senator.
Hi, friends. Sorry to make this complicated. I have not been on the finance committee, but I have been here for a while. And in the court, we did review finances for elections mostly. But I would like to expand my impact on the organization and think finance committee would be a great way to do that. And I enjoy doing really boring things like looking through all of the rules, and I'm not afraid to tell people no about their finances because it has to adhere to our standards. So, yeah.
Are there any further questions and comments on this bill as a whole? Senator James.
I intend to ask the people that are more experienced any questions I don't know, and I intend to become extremely familiar with all of the finance policies.
Are there any further questions or comments on this bill as a whole? Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, closing comments with Speaker Margaret? No closing comments. So UC has been called for. Are there any objections to voting with unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes.
Madam President, I move to reconsider, or move to again consider 2023-1-004F funding cardinal leads.
Second.
Second. It has been moved and seconded to reconsider 2023-1-004F funding cardinal eats. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we shall move into, we shall move into debate, so you can have the floor.
All right, hello. My name is Justin Templeton. I am the treasurer for Cardinal Eats. I'm just going to pass this around real quick. All right, so that is the latest copy of Cardinal Eats that's being passed around. Currently, what we do is that we are a club around 15 people, and we create every semester a magazine about food, and this includes recipes, stories, just general journalism about anything relating to food, whether it be family recipes, cultural, heritage, stuff like that.
Are there any questions or comments at this time? Senator James.
So I'm just going by previous debate comments. I just want to ask one, how many copies of the magazine would be made with this budget? And two, has there been any movement for Cardinal Eats to find other sources of being able to fund this printing?
Yes, we do fund ISU every spring. Or no, every fall, sorry. We used to do spring, now we do fall. And that normally brings in somewhere between $2,000 and $700 worth of revenue every, not semester, but school year. And we're also focusing on making a website so that people can access the magazine digitally, not via a print copy.
And then just to restate my first question, how many copies of Cardinal Eats would be made with this budget?
As many as we really can with $3,000. I know that student government wants to have us put the magazine in places like the College of Design, Parks Library, and we've been kind of pushing that. I've been talking to people at the MU about putting them in the stalls, and so really we just kind of, at least the policy that I've been handed down has been to print as many as I can with $3,000.
Got it. What current partnerships do you have with printing?
ISU printing.
Okay. I didn't know if you went through others. Okay, I yield the rest of my time.
Are there any further questions or comments at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Before we do so, closing comments with Senator Eisma. No closing comments. Seeing as this is a finance bill, we will do a roll call vote. Give me 1 second. Beginning with Senator Cecil. Senator Momini. Senator Kamstra. Senator Chenoweth. Senator Mahoney. Senator Braun. Senator Everhart. Senator Janes. Senator Eisma. Senator Keeler. Senator Margret. Senator Wellman. Senator Senattle. With a vote of 13 to 0, this bill passes.
All right, thank you very much.
We will now move into 2023-1-015SC, confirming a nominee for Director of Information Technology with Speaker Margret.
Yeah, so we have another nomination, and I would yield to the nominee to say whatever they would like to Senate.
Perfect. So hello, everyone. Some of you might know my face, but my name is Blake Vanderkamp. I am a third year, going to be a senior this next year, studying agricultural education, international agriculture, and public relations, and was previously serving as Director of Sustainability, and I'm looking for another year to be involved in student government. Was talking with Eddie today and was joking around that I realized that I have been probably one of the people in this room in the longest in student government. This will be my going on 4th year involved in student government, and really just looking for another way to stay involved. And with having a passion in agriculture, but as well as communications, I think helping update the website, which we've seen has been an increasing need, specifically with student government, is one passion of mine. I'm currently serving as well as the digital communications assistant for the Dean of Students office, where I'm managing 17 websites and transferring them to the new Iowa State platform. So I believe I have some experience in this background, specifically with updating Iowa State websites as well. I yield.
Are there any questions or comments for the nominee at this time? Senator Kamstra.
So I know you were Director of Sustainability last year, right? Okay. Just making sure I had that right and I heard that correctly. We kind of saw a lackluster attendance out of some cabinet last year, and you obviously are very busy. You're a great leader on campus. What are you going to do to ensure that you at least make that quantity of one Senate a month?
Yeah, so I think specifically with Director of IT, it's important that, one, they're also actually at committee meetings, because we are trying to portray the committees and show the information that they want to be portrayed on the website. So one, attending those. Attending Senate, I feel like I always learn best when I'm actually at the Senate meeting, so I like to be present when I can be for those. As for my time commitments, I have historically taken around 25 credits a semester and will be going down to 20, and then I'll be barely a full-time student with 13 credits in the spring, so significantly less, and I've also decreasing my involvement. I've been traditionally involved in 5 to 6 other clubs and going down to probably about 1 or 2, with one of those being student government, because it is my favorite organization I've been a part of. So with that, I think time and commitment is a lot easier than it has been in the past years, and I have no reservations that I'll be able to meet the commitments of this position.
Awesome. I yield.
Senator Mahoney.
So I know Blake and I have talked a lot about doing all the website fun stuff, but so in that regard, I definitely think he'll do a great job as Director of IT. But I did want to ask 2 questions. First of those being, with the recent bylaw changes, the Director of IT is a member of the PR committee. The idea being you'll be having a committee to help support you in any website changes that you maybe need, but also just kind of help integrate the website more as part of the marketing of student government. And so I just wanted to pretty much ask like how you'll work with like the rest of the committee, and if you've thought about kind of how you'll fit in with the rest of PR committee and kind of being a cohesive unit in terms of making the website part of marketing for all of us.
Definitely. I think my goal is kind of to do what Charlotte Everest did this past year, is really making the position my own and trying to be an integral part of the marketing and PR committee, excuse me. And along with that, I think making sure that I'm on the same page when we have International Women's Day, or we have other events that we might be doing, making sure that those are on the website or the podcast or other ways we can market that. And I think the website is something that we see being increasingly important when it comes to marketing. And I think using that to student government's advantage is going to be the best part moving forward.
Awesome. And then the one other thing I wanted to ask is that traditionally, I know it's a little wonky right now with some of the university level committees on IT being shifted around, but traditionally the director of IT has been appointed to the it'll now be the Student Technology Fee Advisory Board, I believe is the name of it, because Castle's replaced. But I just wanted to ask, you'll probably be appointed to that. How do you feel about like representing students, a student voice regarding their technology fees and everything on that committee?
I feel like with my past 3 years involvement in student government, I've seen from a lot of great leaders at these tables what it looks like to represent those students. So I feel like between that and my past experience this year serving on the university's sustainability committee and advocating for students, I should know how to do that and also do that effectively.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments for the nominee at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting? Seeing none, closing comments? No closing comments. UC has been called for. Are there any objections to voting in way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes. We will now be moving into 2023-1-06016 SC, confirming a nominee for ex officio to the Ames City Council with Speaker Margaret.
Just again, as a moment of context, unfortunately, the nominee for this position is unable to be here today. She is sick and did not want to get the rest of us sick, so I will yield to President Roberts to speak on her behalf.
Hi, guys. Usually we would table a bill if a nominee couldn't be here. We like to give you the opportunity. However, with the fact that ex officio's role does start next Tuesday, okay, maybe one Tuesday after that, I had to attend city council in their place, so if we don't appoint someone, we don't have a representative on city council, which is a loss for us, especially as we go into Cyclone Welcome Week planning. However, our nominee Tabitha Eaton did test positive for 3 separate infections/sicknesses, so I felt for your own safety going to prep week and hers, this was not a good idea. But I have a speech on her behalf, don't worry. Tabitha Eaton was confirmed as ex officio this past February, late February, when our previous ex officio chose to step down and immediately jumped into the role. She loves being ex officio, which is rare for our organization. She attends all her city council meetings. She even attends the community workshop plannings, which are optional for the position, but she chooses to attend them anyway, as well as the fact that when I attended city council last night, they all asked me where Tabitha was and were concerned why she was not present. She actually talks at city council. If you go back and watch the live stream, she's one of the first that we've had that talks on almost every agenda item in a long time. And I thought the joint city council meeting went really well this past year. However, moving forward, she really wants to ensure that local affairs has more of an opportunity to set that agenda. So by setting it a month in advance, local affairs has the opportunity to do that as well. She also wants to move local affairs back to weekly. Meeting bi-weekly is hard for a committee. It just kind of, people's schedules fall off, they forget about it. So by moving it weekly, she hopes it becomes more of a forefront of their mind. And really helping our members of local affairs get on city commissions. It is something we ask of all local affairs members to at least try applying for. But because Tabitha has formed a bridge with the city council, it is a little easier sometimes for us to sit members to those city commissions because city council wants us present and really likes the relationship with Tabitha, as well as starting a newsletter for local affairs. So ensuring that not only the agenda items from city council, but anybody who serves on a city commission is submitting reports to that newsletter so that it's written for students so that they're kind of taming down that information to what applies to us. So especially from city council, it would really have been Cyclone Welcome Weekend last night. I don't know if you guys are super care about the duplexes that they're arguing about should be built names or not, but if you do, they're still arguing about it. But I'll field any questions you may have to the best of my ability.
Are there any questions or comments at this time? Seeing none, do we have a call to question? Question has been called for and seconded. Closing comments. No. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Unanimous consent. Objection. Yes. Or do you?
I'm objecting to the use. You just
oh.
placard vote. Yeah.
Okay. So we will go into a placard vote. Those voting yes, raise your placards now. Okay, those voting no. Abstentions? Okay. With a vote of 12 to 0 to 1, this bill passes.
Thank you. When she's alive, I'll let her know.
Okay, we will now be moving into 2023-1-017 SC, confirming a nominee for Director of Sustainability with Speaker Margaret.
Once again, I'll go ahead and yield to the nominee for the Director of Sustainability position so they can say whatever they'd like to Senate.
Hello, my name is Olivia Miller. I am a sophomore in environmental science and dual majoring in animal ecology as well. I have been an at-large member of the Sustainability Committee for 3 semesters, and I've really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to having lots of new projects hopefully get funded next year.
The floor is now open for any questions or comments, beginning with Speaker Margaret.
Hi, firstly, thank you for coming out. And secondly, I was just curious if you had the opportunity to connect with the previous director, who is now the Director of IT, about the position.
Yes, we were just talking about it during the 5-minute recess. But yeah, he's going to continue to stay on the committee next year, so I plan to be in constant contact with him for tips and tricks.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and I yield.
Senator Mahoney.
I'm going to yield some time to Director of Sustainability Emeritus, Vanderkamp.
Yes, so just speaking a little bit about Olivia, I've got to know her this past year. She's been in sustainability about actually longer than I was when I was Director of Sustainability, so very confident in her ability. She's shown a passion to, even though sometimes at the university level we don't have people that respond always the most prompt way, she's been very dedicated to her projects and seeing sustainability through, and I think throughout this next year she's going to be a great addition to sustainability advocacy on campus, but also going to make sure that we can continue growing the momentum that we've had this past year on sustainability, and I definitely would support her in this endeavor.
Awesome. And then I just wanted to ask if you have any ideas of, or maybe some of the projects you've worked on this year, and then if you have any ideas for some of the projects you might want to chase going into the next year in this role.
So everyone has their own personal project, and everyone just kind of gives input on that. So I've kind of helped with other projects in that. I have given advice on the solar trash compactors that was passed like a month ago, I think, successfully, which was super awesome. A project that I've been working on for the past 3 semesters that has lately might be happening now. I have been working with facilities planning and management to hopefully install a series of bat boxes on campus to help with bat infestations in campus buildings. But there are lots of other ones. For example, several that were proposed this year were stickers to advertising to turn off the lights when you leave your dorm room, to put that in all dorm rooms, and then just like a Be Green, How to Be Sustainable at Iowa State magnet to be in the backpacks they give you at Destination Iowa State. So things like that were proposed but don't really have any momentum because no one was really taking charge of it. Things like that to propel into the future, as well as the different projects that new members would propose.
Senator Janes.
First, I move to add Vice Speaker Agba to the roll.
Are there any objections to adding Vice Speaker Agba to the roll? Seeing none, he shall be added.
And then for a question for you, with sustainability projects, there's sometimes pushback from campus, especially if it's something that puts a minor inconvenience to their lives. What strategies that you have to make it when more people are willing to do it, even if it inconveniences them, and what are ways that you're going to help yourself maintain a positive outlook with that pushback?
So a lot of the issues just regarding sustainability on campus is just education and the knowledge being out there. So of course, with 2 of the projects that I just highlighted, those are just spreading awareness. So the idea will always be to continue to spread awareness about sustainability on campus and how to be more environmentally friendly. And how I would stay hopeful is just that there is progress every single year with every single project that is successful. So I am very hopeful with that.
Got it. I yield my time.
Are there any further questions or comments for the nominee at this time? Seeing none. Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, closing comments with Speaker Margaret. Closing comments. Okay, no closing comments. UC has been called for. Are there any objections to voting in way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes.
Okay, cool.
Madam President? Okay, this is going to be slightly weird, but we're going to hopefully tweak the order of the agenda to get to quorum and wait for some people. So I'm going to move that I'm going to move 2023-1-023 SG, seating senators to Rules Committee, to be the next bill to be considered, and then move 2023-1-019 SC and 2023-1-020 SC to be after 2023-1-021 SC, and then move 2023-1-024 SD to be after 2023-1-023 SG. Basically, we would go Rules Committee, then seating the senators to UROC, then confirming a nominee for Election Commissioner, then confirming a nominee for Director of Outreach, and then confirming a nominee for Senior Director of Communications. Second.
There has been a proposal of, do I need to say it?
Just
okay. There's been a proposal of agenda amendments and a second. Are there any objections to these amendments at this time? Seeing none, they shall be amended.
There you go. There's the next one.
We are now moving into 2023-1-023 SG, seating senators to Rules Committee with Speaker Margaret.
Yeah, so I would give Eddie a moment. But in the meantime, we want to seat Rules Committee. It's a pretty important part of the way we function as an organization, and we wanted to get it done before the summer. And so out of the 5 vacancies, we've selected 4 candidates that we're very confident about, who we've had the opportunity to talk to in person this week, as well as read their applications for the position. So if these 4 individuals, giving Senator Mahoney a moment, or not, if they wish to just introduce themselves and we can answer, or we can pose any questions we have to them.
Hey everyone, I feel like most people in this room know me by now, but my name is Eddie Mahoney. I'm just currently serving as a graduate senator. Last session, I served as Speaker of the Senate and Chair of the Rules Committee. Before that, I was on Rules Committee for a semester, and then the semester before that, I was the clerk of the Rules Committee, so I've spent a total about 2 years on Rules Committee. I have spent about 200 hours so far completely rewriting our Senate Rules of Order and bylaws. I'm not stopping. I spent way too much time on it to quit now. If anyone has dove into the Rules of Order or the bylaws and Senate Rules of Order, they're kind of a mess. They've existed since 2006 and have had just amendments after amendments after amendments after amendments. So they need some cleaning up. That's a project I want to continue to tackle. Aside from that, I'm currently the longest serving senator in the Senate. I have a lot of experience writing bills, writing bylaws, any of that sort of jazz. Also doing hearings, contracts. I've kind of seen it all. So I'm excited to hopefully be back on Rules Committee again to kind of continue the work and finally get this rewrite done that I've spent way too much time on.
Hi friends, I'm Alex Cecil. I spent about 3 years on the court looking at rules after people broke them or when people weren't sure what they meant. They're a mess, so that happened a decent amount where people didn't know what they meant. I was on rules last year once I became a senator, last session, I guess same year. But I really enjoy rules because it takes a deeper look on everything that we do and kind of goes a bit more into it. and I hope to contribute more to it.
My name is Trey Wellman. I am a sophomore studying ag and rural policy, as you know. This is my first year on Student Senate, so I'm kind of the newcomer on this, and so I hope to give it a fresh perspective. I can't really say a lot about rules because I'll be honest, I don't know a lot, but I think just getting a new perspective on it, especially as we continue the rewrites of the rules and the bylaws, is very important. So thank you.
All right, hi guys, my name's Max Kuehler. I'm an engineering senator. I served on Rules Committee for the entirety of last term, and I guess I'd like to continue that. I wrote a few bylaws. I think the most notable one was the floor-based elections process. So the process we had all of those bills last week for all of those positions. I wrote that bylaw. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to continue my work on rules.
All right, the floor is now open for any questions or discussion, beginning with Senator Janes.
Senator Wellman, bringing up a similar question. I know you don't have much experience, but do you have any experience with reading bylaws and bill writing? Because I know you have a clerkship in the Capitol.
Yeah, so I do a lot of legislative analysis for my representative, and so those are intricate, those are tough, but I get through them. So I would point to that as experience, looking at intricate readings and whatnot. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And then for the senators that are returning, what are some strategies that you guys are going to implement to help come over some hurdles you saw from your previous tenures as rules?
So the biggest, to be frank, the biggest hurdle I've spent all of last summer and a lot of my portion of this last term putting time into trying to get this rewrite. I have draft copies. There's actually draft copies of the Senate Rules of Order. There's like 4 copies of them sitting in the office. But the biggest hurdle that actually got into the way of finishing that was being speaker, because I could only dedicate so much time to student government per week, and every time I'd sit down and try to work on them, it'd be like, oh, there's an agenda to do, a new conversation to have, a committee meeting to make. So not being speaker and just being a senator will give me more time from the weekly budget for student government that I have to work towards that. I also, over the summer, it's close to being done, so over the summer I'll be able to put the finishing touches on it so that we as a rules committee can really start digging in and reviewing it and making the changes to it that I know need to be made as we still figure out more changes that we want to make. I could talk at length for several hours about the changes that we want to see because there's a really long running list, and when it comes time to start looking at all those, we'll go in depth about all of it, but it's just a weird transition period right now for everything.
The biggest thing for me with all of that is more trying to accomplish everything but keeping it concise, because everyone on Rules Committee so far has been incredibly passionate about a lot of things. So some of us like to go on tangents and take a long time, and there's only so long we should be debating this. We could debate it all week, but there's only so long that we could talk about certain things. The bylaws are a big thing that I also want to see done, but yeah, just keeping rules concise so we don't end up staying there all night would be awesome.
I think going forward, I want to make sure that you guys, not in Rules Committee, have a good understanding of what happens with our bylaws, because like I said, I don't really think it should be your responsibility to have to comb through 40 pages of our bylaws. So I think just making sure going forward that Rules Committee takes the responsibility and initiative of ensuring that you guys understand everything that's going on, so you have the best picture when voting on all of these important changes coming down the pipe this year.
Got it. Thanks. I yield my time.
Are there any further questions or comments for our nominees at this time? Seeing question has been called for and seconded. Closing comments?
Yeah, sure, technically, but I'll be brief. I just want to reiterate that 3 of these 4 nominees have been on the committee. I've had great experiences with all of them. They know what they're doing. They're going to hit the ground running. And Senator Wellman, from what I've heard from you, you have a great fresh perspective and a lot of experience that's going to benefit you here. So, after talking with all these nominees, again, we very much feel confident in their abilities here. So I encourage you all to vote yes, or UC, if you so choose.
Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, we shall go into a placard vote. Unanimous consent has been called for. Are there any objections to voting in way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes. Okay, we will now be going into 2023-1-024 SD, confirming the nomination of off-campus senators with Senator Cecil.
Hi, everyone. UROC has multiple seats open. These are 2 individuals that are more than qualified to fill those seats. And I'll just let them tell you about themselves. So.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Larson. I am a junior majoring in ag policy with a second major in international agriculture and a minor in political science. I was a senator my sophomore year. And yeah, that's about all I got right now.
Hey, my name is Kenyon Huntington. I'm currently a junior here at Iowa State, majoring in political science, sociology, environmental studies with a minor in ethics. I haven't been on student government before, but I am good friends with Madeline and Stacia. And they kind of convinced me to run for this because I want to get more involved here on campus. So this is kind of my way to get more involved. I know a lot of people on campus. I have a lot of connections, so I kind of want to help represent the students, off campus and everything. And I have a time commitment that I can make to this. I'm only taking 12 credits in the fall, so I'll be able to devote my time to this.
The floor is now open to any questions or comments you may have for the nominees, beginning with Senator Janes.
Yeah, so off-campus is a large area, so what's some strategies of you guys being able to make sure you know what the voices of off-campus students have? Or like the opinions of the off-campus students?
I guess my answer to that would be changing how we do outreach. UROC Council before, didn't really do a lot, or, they did a few events and they didn't really outreach to the students. So I want to really change how we do outreach for UROC and become more of like an organization that students can actually utilize instead of just being a body that exists for senators.
I would also agree with that, changing outreach. Student government is something that I hear a little bit about, but not a lot. So I think I'm just reaching out to those students so they can understand why we're here and kind of why we're devoting our time to them. Whether we're doing that through different events or different outreach, but just kind of making ourselves more known and helping the student body become more aware of what we're doing for them.
Yeah. A question more laid towards, do I go by the last name or the first name? Point of information, do I call them by the last name or first name?
Up to your discretion. Right now, they're not senators quite yet, so.
Yeah. Huntington, coming in from a new perspective, not hearing much, what are places that you think student government can improve in outreach?
I think just just becoming more known on what goes on. I know obviously not a lot of people attend these meetings. And I know that you guys post things on Instagram and you're trying to get out there a little bit more. But really trying to do events that involve the students a little bit more, events that they'll go to, I guess. I know that my friends don't know a lot about student government, so I was talking to them about this tonight, and they were like, oh, why are you doing this? What's the point? And I said I just wanted to help represent the student body more and kind of hear the opinions of our student body, especially those that are off campus, so I can kind of help make that happen here at Iowa State.
Thank you. I yield my time.
Senator Kuehler.
This question is for both of you, and it's about committees. So I'm just wondering if you guys have had the opportunity to kind of look at all the committees we offer and which ones you would be interested in.
I'll be honest, I have not had a lot of time to look at the committee. This was kind of like a little bit of a last minute thing knowing that I was going to come here. But I'm open to anything, really helping out wherever I can. Like I said, I have a lot of time to dedicate this next year. So whatever I can do to help out or, any passion project, I guess.
There's a lot of committees I want to join, but one for sure I want to get on is PR committee.
Thank you. I yield.
Senator Wellman.
I got to know both of them, Canyon through FFA and Rebecca through my major, and I could vouch for them that they're both very hardworking individuals. They're both passionate and they both care a lot, so I would urge a yes vote. Sorry, I yield.
Senator Mahoney.
I just wanted to ask you guys, I know both of you are CAL's club representatives, am I saying that right? But, yeah, okay, regardless, sorry. I just know you guys are involved with CAL's council, and CAL's council obviously meets at the same time as Senate, and I just was curious how you guys were gonna balance that.
So I'm not on CAL's council.
Okay.
I'm not in the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, so no worries there.
I am. So I talked to CAL's council, and they know that even though I was on this first, this is something I'm very passionate about. So both organizations are willing to work with me. And I've been, a multitasker since I entered college and was on way more clubs than I am now when I was a senator the first time around. So I'm not too worried about it.
Senator Everhart.
Hello, everyone. I don't personally know, is your name Rebecca? Yes. Okay, I don't personally know Rebecca, but I work with Canyon at Texas Roadhouse, so I can vouch for him. He's a great person. My question for you all was, do you guys have like a specific method of outreach that you plan on enacting as senators?
Yeah, I want to change how we do outreach. We've been doing the same outreach for, the past few years, and it clearly hasn't been working. That's just my personal opinion. So I really want to do an in-depth analysis of, how other organizations do outreach and try to implement some of those new strategies, within the entire student government, not just within the senators, because I know that a lot of the student government organizations are lacking in members. So it's something I think we should all look into.
I don't think I have anything specifically right now, but I definitely want to get to know more of the student outreach that you guys have right now and kind of the methods and how you go about that. But definitely just looking more, like Trey said, I have been in other organizations like FFA, so I kind of know the outreach that we have there. So just bringing in ties from other organizations so I can help better reach the student body.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and yeah, I support this nomination. I yield.
Vice Speaker Agba.
Echoing Senator Wellman, I have both of them in the class that I TA, and I think that they are both great students, and I think that they'd make both great senators. I yield.
Are there any further questions or comments at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Closing comments with Senator Cecil. No closing comments and unanimous consent has been called for. Are there any objections in voting away of unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes.
I don't know where we're going. You can stand right here. All right. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. Okay. And then, and I will remember this. Okay. I solemnly swear or affirm.
I solemnly swear or affirm.
To execute the duties of my position.
To execute the duties of my position.
As prescribed in the Constitution.
As prescribed in the Constitution.
And laws of the government.
And laws of the government.
For the benefit of all students.
For the benefit of all students.
So yes, until the end of this meeting.
Yes. Yes. There we go.
Are there any objections to adding Senators Larson and Huntington to the roll? Seeing none, they shall be added. We will now be moving into 2023. Oh, never mind. 2023-1-021SC, confirming a nominee for election commissioner with Speaker Margaret.
Once again, I am introducing a nominee on behalf of this time, our outgoing Chief Justice. So if our nominee for election commissioner would like to share any of your experience or interest in the role.
Hi, y'all. My name's Shane. I am a freshman here at Iowa State, currently studying psychology with a minor in history. I actually do not have any experience in the role, but I do have experience pertaining to around the role. I was in youth and government back home in 7th and 8th grade, meaning I wrote bills and I voted and I helped elect a governor of youth and government. And then in high school, I had multiple people reach out to see if I could help with their elections for student council. I like to think that I helped elect 2 presidents and 1 treasurer, and I too ran for event coordinator, which I won. That's about it.
The floor is now open for any questions or comments you may have, beginning with Senator Kuehler.
This last year, we had a very low voter turnout, as well as very few candidates running for Senate. I guess I'm just wondering if you have any strategies you would plan to implement to kind of address these issues.
Well, I would like to work very closely with the director of PR because, as you said, y'all have maybe 1,300 people on your Instagram. That's out of how many students we have? That's not much. So if we can not only reach out through every sort of social media we can, but also go the more traditional route of flyers and events, we could not only reach more students, but we can actively engage them as well.
All right, thank you. I yield.
Senator Janes.
Hi, I just have a question about, I know you don't have much experience, but have you been able to talk to anyone on the previous election the previous election commissioner to, like get some insight on the position and like what strategies you would need?
No.
Do you have like intention to meet with them beyond just the transition meeting to continue conversations?
I would love to reach out to them as soon as possible, if any of y'all have their numbers.
Right. I yield the rest of my time.
Senator Mahoney.
So I just wanted to speak in support of Shane. He and I sat down a couple weeks ago at this point, and he was just interested in getting involved in student government. We were in that unfortunate transition period of dealing with inauguration and waiting for write-ins and waiting for nominations, and I'm currently still waiting for some people to accept if they want to be nominated or not. But he and I had a fantastic conversation. I've really liked his just want to be a part of this organization and make an impact on Iowa State's campus. We all know Election Commission needs some changes, perhaps some restructuring, and I know Sophie's over there getting scared about talking election reform again, because that's been something that's been talked about over and over and over again for the last several years. But I do think there's really good ideas in the organization about how we can like really work to fix these things. I think Shane will do a fantastic job running Election Commission and working as a partner of student government rather than kind of being their own separate organization. So I am very actually happy to see him be election commissioner. I didn't think we'd have an election commissioner before the end of this session, and I think he'll do a wonderful job.
Senator Momini.
I do have a question for you. Just this previous election, I did run into some issues. In my opinion, it was just a fall short of communication and, quite honestly, compassion. So how do you plan to address those issues that I know I'm not the only one who's faced them? We've had, some poor voter turnout, as well as just people who have wanted to be seated and haven't had the opportunity to, due to resources just not being there for them.
Well, one moment. I'm trying to think of everything. Well, I have not been fully debriefed on the situation before. I did hear a little bit from the candidates of last year, as I am a vice president of the Eaton Hall Council. I heard a little bit, but from what I heard, it sounded like, as you said, not the best communication, and I plan on changing that. I am fully available at all times, more or less, if I'm not in class. I will post my socials and number, email, anywhere that needs to be posted. I have no problem staying up late to talk with people. I have no problem meeting people. I'm very friendly. And I have always been one for not allowing outside influence, I guess you could say. Instead of, I know a lot of people say that certain people should be funded, but then whatever they bring to the table, they can bring to the table, money-wise. And I don't find that fair. I think if you are going to be funded, that is the money you have, and that's it. And that's only one situation.
Senator Wellman.
How do you plan to work closely with the Senate through your time as election commissioner? Just that way we can kind of piggyback ideas off of each other and work together to fix our elections and whatnot, and to get more voter turnout.
Of course. When I interviewed yesterday with the outgoing Chief Justice, he said that the attendance of the election commissioner or anyone from the election commission had been sparse prior to this session and next session. I plan on working on molding my schedule around this meeting and any meeting that needs my attendance. And again, I am always available.
Thank you. I yield.
Are there any further questions or comments for the nominee at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Closing comments with Speaker Margaret. There are no closing comments, and unanimous consent has been called for. Are there any objections for voting in way of unanimous consent at this time? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes.
So raise your right hand and repeat after me. I solemnly swear or affirm
I solemnly swear or affirm
to execute the duties of my position
to execute the duties of my position
as prescribed in the Constitution
as prescribed in the Constitution
and laws of the government
and laws of the government
for the benefit of all students.
for the benefit of all students.
Okay, we will now be moving into 2023-1-020SC, confirming a nominee for Director of Outreach with Speaker Margaret.
I'm in another one of those bittersweet situations where I know Senator Braun will do an amazing job in the role, but at the same time, I'm sad at the possibility of him leaving Senate. But I do believe he'll do a great job, so I yield to you to say whatever you wish to Senate.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Brown, and I'm currently serving as the IFC Senator. I'm a junior studying mechanical engineering. So my experience with outreach is I've served on my fraternity's recruitment board for probably about 3 years now. I've served as the primary recruiter, the event manager, and now as president of my fraternity, I am kind of like the overseer of the entire operations of my entire chapter, which recruitment falls under me. So recruiting is the #1 priority of every student organization. And I look to use this director of outreach as kind of just more of like expanding the recruitment of student gov as a whole. So the things I've learned while serving as a recruitment chair is mainly that the job is not all on me. It's on everyone. And that is something I really want to emphasize. I want to emphasize that this is a team project and it expands outside of student gov. One of the things I really want to do is reach out to the colleges, the housing boards, and larger kind of clubs and organizations within Iowa State and get their input and get their ways of communicating to other people so we can have more than just us as on student gov recruiting people, getting people to fill these vacancies that we have, getting people to become at-larges. And it's more of a collective whole because we want, for the greater good of the student gov organization, we need this whole room to be filled. We need all the committees to be filled. We need everything to be filled. And it should be in the greater interest of these organizations and clubs, housing boards, and colleges to have student gov filled. And another thing I really want to emphasize is education. I've talked to various people on IFC, and they have no idea what we do. They have no idea how the election process goes because I'm actively seeking my replacement for IFC Senator. And in that process, I've kind of learned that no one really knows what they're doing. And I think better educating these clubs, these organizations, will help the recruiting tactics because they can actually give proper information rather than referring to us. Another thing I really want to do is talk to all the committees here in Student Org. I believe emphasizing and showing what we do is the #1 goal to get people to join, because if we don't show what we as a whole do and what accomplishments we have, we're not going to get the outreach that we really want. So yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, are there any questions or comments for the nominee, beginning with Senator Mahoney?
So I just wanted to speak my support for Senator Braun. For those of you who are in Greek life or not in Greek life, there's a common saying, and that's lifeblood, or let me get that right. Recruitment is the lifeblood of the fraternity. That's something that's thrown around a lot in Greek life. It's always about like getting people involved and getting people to know. And so I think that's really what the position of Director of Outreach is kind of recruiting people into student government and kind of being a focal point for just getting people interested in, coming here on Wednesday nights and joining us. I think Eric is a really approachable and a personable person. That's a funny sentence. And I just think he's going to do a great job. And so I'm really excited to see him in this role. Sad to see him leave as a senator, but excited to see him in this role.
Senator Janes.
Yeah, so I don't know the difference in time commitment too, but I do know president takes a lot of time. So how are you going to balance like your presidency and other obligations you might have with these probably newer time commitments that Director of Outreach will give you?
So next semester, I have probably the easiest semester of my college career. Yeah, I'm going to only be taking 15 credits, which is not that much for engineering majors. So when I became senator, this kind of runs into the same time as delegates or P-Council for the president. And I have a lot of people that I trust in my fraternity that could pick up the slack of certain projects I want to work on, because my exec board, I treat it more as like a team, and I know there's a lot of people to count on, especially if I'm swamped with work with here. So time commitment wise, I've really learned how to delegate. I know when I'm pushing myself to the limit, and I feel comfortable with delegating my fraternal work, and I also feel comfortable delegating this work as well to minimize the amount of time I'm going to be spending on stuff.
And I understand you have experience with recruitment as recruitment board and president, but I do see with some members of my sorority, sometimes they get really focused in just the Greek community when it comes to outreach. How are you going to make sure you keep yourself to look at things outside of Greek community?
It's definitely going to be communicating with like presidents of certain colleges and housing boards, and just going to clubs, talking to different clubs, getting representatives, like all you guys serve colleges or housing boards, getting you guys to go and talk to your council, and really just putting the outreach on you guys, and me providing any inputs and resources that there may be. And if there's any questions, come to me. If there's any other stuff, it should be more of a team effort rather than an individual effort.
Good. Thank you. I yield.
Speaker Margaret.
Yes, this isn't a question, but very quickly, I just wanted to piggyback on what Senator Mahoney was saying. I've had great experiences with Senator, hopefully Director Braun, specifically in local affairs. You've shared a lot of ideas about how we can better reach people and how we can better communicate our ideas. And based on my experiences in local affairs, knowing you, and based on my experience tonight, listening to what you had to say, I have no doubt that you'll bring that same sort of innovative approach to outreach for our student government. So vote yes. I yield.
Are there any further questions or comments at this time? Seeing none. Question has been called for and seconded. Closing comments? No closing comments, and unanimous consent has been called for. Are there any objections in voting in way of unanimous consent at this time? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes.
Thank you.
Madam President, I move to recess for 2 minutes.
Second. Okay. Are there any objections to recessing for 2 minutes? Seeing none, we will begin back at 8:13. Okay, we will now begin the meeting back up at 8:13. And we will be going on to 2023-1-019 SC, confirming a nominee for Senior Director of Communications with Speaker Margaret.
It is my understanding we now have the nominee. Are you, what? Okay, cool. Approach. And please tell us anything that you would like to about your interest in the role of Senior Director of Communications.
Okay. Just came from a chemistry exam, so I'm just like brain dead right now. My name is Maddie Harvey. I'm an animal science pre-vet major. Sophomore by credits, freshman by how long I've been here. I have some previous experience. I have some previous experience with leadership positions like this. I've managed multiple different committees. In the past, managing is one of the things I love to do the most. I feel like I excel at it. Senior Director of Communications kind of stood out to me when I was applying, just because as a freshman, coming in, I got to see all the different clubs at DIS, Club Fest, things like that. I didn't really know much about what student government was until I'm on Cal's council currently, until they spoke about it there. And then I met with Emily to talk about the different positions because I was very interested and didn't realize I could apply as a freshman. I just feel like it should be more widespread and better well known to students instead of them getting to their juniors and senior year and finally trying out something like this. So I just really want to connect student government more with the students that are going to be our future leaders, especially our incoming class of 2027 and transfer students. Yeah.
The floor is now open for any questions or comments senators may have, beginning with Senator Kamstra.
Hello. Thank you for coming after your chemistry exam. I've gone through Chem 1 and 2 and OChem 1 and 2, so
yes.
Good luck with all of those moving forward.
Thank you.
My question for you is, Senator Mahoney brought this up earlier that Cal's council meets at the same time as Student Senate.
Yes.
And it's a requirement that directors come to at least one Senate meeting this month. How are you going to balance trying to work with Cal's council and also student governments?
Yes. My Cal's council meetings are every other week, so I will be coming here the 2 weeks of per month that I'm not at Cal's council. Additionally, just kind of depending on when Cal's council gets out, I'll be heading straight over here. Afterwards, they tend to run 5:45 to 6:30, 6:45. So just depending on how long the meeting here is going, I'll be planning on being here right after that.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you. I yield.
Are there any other questions or comments for the nominee at this time?
Call the question.
Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, we will go to closing comments. No closing comments and unanimous consent has been called for. Are there any objections to voting in way of unanimous consent at this time? Seeing none, congratulations, this bill passes.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now move into new business, beginning with 2023-1-005F, Dance Marathon Line Item Transfer with Senator Eisma.
So obviously, being all the bills are gonna die, I move to waive first read with no objection.
Second.
Are there any objections in way of moving 2023-1-005F to second read? Seeing none, we will consider first read waived.
So Dance Marathon is asking for a line item transfer, and just for quick clarification, Martin, it's foggy right now. Could you quickly explain that?
Yeah, line item transfers. Basically, we gave them money for something else for that event, and now they're requesting a transfer to something else. And so their treasurer, Macy's, here today, and she can make her way to the podium and kind of describe exactly why they need this funding and why they're transferring it, if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Hi guys, I'm just gonna pull up this. I have a little note thingy so I know what we're requesting. But so Dance Marathon is requesting a transfer from our big event arcade game. So does everyone know what Dance Marathon is, first of all? I'll just give like a little blurb if not. Dance Marathon is basically just like a nonprofit organization here at Iowa State where we raise money for the children at the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital. It's a year-long project, and every year we have a big event where we just celebrate everyone's fundraising events. This past year raised over $160,000 for the University of Iowa Family Children's Hospital. So basically what we're requesting for is that we did not use arcade games at our big event this year, and we would like to request that and move into spring-fall production because we need that money. We're going to use that for our Miracle Maker meetings to get more people to join our events. We're targeting freshmen right now, so we're going to get like a stage and everything just to, bring light to the event. We're going to have it on Central Campus. So we're requesting $1,000 moved from arcade games to big event production or spring-fall recruitment production. And then we're also requesting a transfer to office supplies from Stacks for Stead building rental. Stacks for Stead was an event that we hosted this year. Didn't use Hanson Ag building like we intended to. We had it on Central Campus. Big success, but we did not need the money that we had for renting the building. We request to move that to office supplies. This is due to, with the changing of our new presidents, our president would like to add more supplies such as pens, sticky notes, things like that nature, just to move that over. Request a $500 transfer from building rental to office supplies. And then also we are requesting moving to IT fees from flyer distribution. Since Dance Marathon is recently with student engagement, we don't need the flyer distribution anymore, and IT fees have been higher this year than we intended when we originally had the budget. So we're requesting a transfer of, looks like $60.
The floor is now open for any questions or comments senators may have, beginning with Senator Wellman.
I have a senator for Finance Director Marsh.
Yeah, 60, because I have 1,000.
I have 1,000 from big event arcade games for spring fall recruitment production.
And then I have 500 for the line
Yes.
item stacks.
Yes, Stacks for Stead building rental to office supplies, and then $60 from DM flyer student engaged distribution to IT fees.
I have 1,000, and that Kit wrote the bill, so we're gonna have.
I have like a screenshot from directly where I like requested the thing, so
Sure.
we can change that to 60.
Yeah, can we make an amendment? I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah.
The amendment has been proposed in a motion and seconded. Are there any objections to approving this amendment at this time? Seeing none, we will consider it approved. Okay. We are back with Senator Wellman.
Okay, and then I do have a quick question for Finance Director Marsh. This is money that's already spent, right?
Yeah,
Just
this
to
is
double
money
check.
we've already allocated towards them for their budget. For next year, they're not using it, and now they need it for something else because they didn't spend it, and so now we're moving it.
Okay.
It's not a carryover request, it's just a line item transfer.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Senator Janes.
So I guess I just want to ask what's, oh God, sorry, I got lost by the 1,000 that I'm trying to go back. What are the unforeseen IT fees that you're seeing?
We originally in the past, they were, I think, under what we expected, like they were, I think we only had $72, and then the IT fees were now like $10 a month instead of what they were in the past. I can't really remember what exactly that number was. So we just need more money to cover the IT fees.
Got it, I yield my time.
Senator Mahoney.
I just wanted to quickly educate new Senator while we're on this bill. We usually won't see a lot of line item transfers. All line item transfers will only come to Senate when they are related to items that are funded on a case-by-case basis under PNC. It's a whole complicated thing you learn more about at the retreat, but we won't see a lot of these. It's really just saying, yeah, you can still spend the money on this. We already gave them the 1,000, so we're just changing what they're allowed to spend the 1,000 on, and the 500 and the 60. So it's already budgeted. Call the question.
Objection. I move my amendment.
There has been a motion to approve the amendment Speaker Margaret has proposed, and a second. Are there any objections to approving it at this time? Seeing none, it is now approved. Are there any further questions or discussion on this bill as a whole? Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, Senator Eisma? No closing comments. We will now move into roll call voting as this is a funding bill. So we will begin with Senator Cecil. Senator Momini? Senator Kamstra? Senator Chenoweth? Senator Mahoney? Senator Everhart? Senator Janes? Senator Eisma? Senator Kuehler? Senator Agba? Speaker Margaret? Senator Wellman? Senator Senadel? Senator Larson? Senator Huntington? With a vote of 15 to 0, this bill passes. Okay, we will now move into 2023-1-006F, funding men's rugby with Senator Eisma.
So being that all bills die, I move to waive first read with no objection.
Second.
There's been a motion and second to waive first read with no objection on 2023-1-006F. Are there any objections? Seeing none, first read is waived.
And the gentlemen are already at the podium.
Hi, my name's Aiden Lewis. I'm the president with Iowa State Men's Rugby. I'm joined by Drew Gwynn, my treasurer. Today we're requesting about 1/3 of our travel for a national championship. This is the best our club has ever done since its production, or since it was made back in 1968. We're super proud of our guys. We have never had such a good group of dudes, such a good group of fundraising. We've been able to fundraise more than we ever have before. We're working to increase it so we can become way more independent in the future. And something that we're super proud of is that we're becoming way more recognized in the United States of America. We're building notoriety. We've had players that are now playing professional in the United States MLR Major League Rugby League. So Iowa State is getting put on the board. This is bringing students to Iowa State. We're getting about 10 to 15 students that probably never would have came to Iowa State if it wasn't for rugby. So we're hoping to help give that back, show them what Iowa State has to offer as a university, and also give them something like a club, something that keeps them involved. So what we're requesting is a 15-passenger van. We would take roughly 26 guys, so it'd be two 15-passenger vans from here to Boulder, Colorado. These 15-passenger vans, going through transportation services, is 65 cents a mile. So at 65 cents per mile, and then usually student government sponsors all club travel by 1/3 of the price. We're requesting, I believe it's about $640. I'm not sure. I can't read from here, to be honest. Sorry. But I hope we can kind of show student government and show how much we love being represented by you guys and put out there that we're going to bring home a national championship back to Iowa State.
The floor is now open for any questions or comments, beginning with Senator Janes.
I yield my time to President Roberts.
I just wanted to ask a question for this. I had the opportunity to see their first funding bill last session. What is your record currently?
We are currently undefeated.
All
this
right,
year.
thank you.
And then a question for me is, what are those strategies you are going to be implementing for further fundraising?
So further fundraising, we've had a lot of people that have reached out to us. I mean, we've been going out, but a lot of our alumni base is way bigger than we ever realized. We've been doing alumni banquets each year, so we kind of put out, we give them a good dinner, feed them, they have a little fun, they go and then they want to donate a lot more. So we go and we purchase like tickets to Iowa State games, tickets to Chicago Bears games, give them sweets, kind of auction off items. That's a huge one. We're trying to make a big event this next year. We had our first annual one last year, and we also do kind of a Hall of Fame to recognize those people. So we're trying to build a community and give back to our alumni because they've helped us so much coming in, on top of student government, obviously. And then CSC is a fundraising that we're doing. So they manage all of the security guard stuff down at Wells Fargo. and they pay about $15 an hour per person that's working, which is a great fundraiser for us. And then another one that we've reached out to is setting up the seatbacks at Iowa State football games. Another really good fundraiser. We're hoping to bring about $15,000 from that in next year is kind of the estimated that I've come to. And obviously doing any kind of concession stands, taking advantage of that as much as possible. We have a great deal with Campus Town, who every year we kind of help people move into their new apartments. And so we'll get a couple tips from families that are generous and they appreciate it. Obviously we don't ask, but a lot of families will give us tips. We put it straight to our club, and then Campus Town will give us a nice bonus on top, usually about $1,500.
Good, thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Senator Mahoney? Oh, okay. Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, closing comments with Senator Eisma. All right, we will now go into a roll call vote, seeing as this is a finance bill. Beginning with Senator Cecil. Senator Mominy. Senator Kamstra.
Thank you.
Senator Chenoweth. Senator Mahoney. Senator Everhart. Senator Janes. Senator Eisma. Senator Kuehler. Senator Vice Speaker Agba. Speaker Margaret. Senator Wellman. Senator Senadel. Senator Larson. Senator Huntington. With a vote of 15 to 0, congratulations, this bill passes.
Thank you all for your continued support. You guys are awesome.
We will now be moving into 2023-1-007J, honoring Steve Winfrey with Senator Mahoney.
So for those of you that don't know, Steve Winfrey was the director of the Memorial Union. He oversaw all of the Memorial Union, which included student engagement and all the clubs there and under. He was been a big supporter of student government for a long time. He was our advisor until we had Sophie come on as our full-time advisor. And unfortunately, he passed away last week. So this is a just small resolution expressing, kind of our condolences and honoring him. Normally, I wouldn't do this, but I'm going to for the sake of this bill. I'm going to read it out. Steve Winfrey, former director of the Memorial Union and advisor to student government, has been an invaluable part of our history. Student government wishes to honor Steve Winfrey upon his passing and extend our condolences to his friends, colleagues, and family. Student government commends Steve Winfrey for his dedication to our organization, our university, and our students. I'm going to pass some time over to President Roberts to speak.
Yeah, just kind of to reiterate kind of what Eddie said. Steve Winfrey has played a vital role in the growth of the Memorial Union. We've seen a lot of construction over the past couple of years, some additions, the 4th through 6th floor, honestly. And he was our primary advisor, like one of two before Sophie, but still stayed on as an advisor even once we got Sophie, even though that's not what he's paid to do. Student government meant a lot to him. He works closely with us on the MU advisory board. He's always made sure that if we had something to say about the growth of the MU, he'd let us have a voice, whether we were guaranteed one or not. Steve Winfrey always checked. He helps lead leadership development throughout the university. He's played a crucial role in a lot of the development of the MU employees. Student employees that work at the MU have always benefited from Steve Winfrey running the Memorial Union, so losing him is really hard on our university. It's really hard on our Memorial staff. It's hard on us as an organization because it's somebody who makes an impact. We talk about the people we give awards to, we don't give awards to. Maybe we've never given Steve Winfrey an award, but he definitely deserves one. The impact he's had on our organization is immense. It's more than most of our members will know. He was here in our growing days when we were slowly growing, slowly learning what our identity was. Steve Winfrey was a crucial role throughout those years through COVID-19. He's always been a part of us. So this bill is just really important because there isn't much else we can do, but we would like to take this bill if it passes and print it on some really nice paper, sign it, and give it to his family so that they know how much he meant to us. Thank you.
There's been a motion and second to waive first read with no objection on 2023-1-007J. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will consider this bill on second read. Yeah. Question has been called for and seconded. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, Senator Mahoney. Unanimous consent has been called for. Are there any objections in voting in way of unanimous consent? Seeing none, congratulations, Dr. Steve Winfrey. This bill passes. Are we going to clap for him? No? Okay. Only dead man. No one? Okay. Moving into 2023-1-008F, funding Iowa State Soil and Water Conservation Club publication with Senator Cecil.
So, firstly, I would like to move the amendments that are on the screen. Oh, waive first read. I would, yeah.
There's been a motion and second to waive first read. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will waive first read on this bill.
Forgot I needed to do that. Secondly, the estimates for printing costs came back today. They didn't have them, so it was off an old estimate. So there's just amendments to make the pricing right. It doesn't actually change the amount requested from student government, just the amount that the club would pay, but it's more representative of the plan. So I move to make the amendments that are on the screen for this bill. And then
There's been a motion to approve the amendments and a second. Are there any objections at this time? Seeing none, they shall be adopted.
and then I'm actually representing this club, so I move to remove myself from the role for the next two bills. So.
Are there any objections to removing Senator Cecil from the role? Seeing none, he shall be removed. We will now go to Speaker Margaret, because you were the co-author of the bill.
Right. I assume you would like to say something, Senator Cecil? I yield to you.
So, I'm the treasurer for this club. We have put out a publication for as long as I have been a member, but up until I was treasurer, they were not aware that student government had any funding available for publications. But with this bill, there's some other things that I will leave for the finance director to explain. But in the bill, we identified 8 different places on campus where we'd like to put our publication. Our goal is to print more publications this year with the help of student government to expand our reach on campus with sustainability and soil and water conservation. And because of that, we're targeting 8 specific places, either with lots of foot traffic or that pertain to soil usage, because that will have the most relevant readers with it. But if we did not get funding, we would print fewer copies and likely not distribute across campus as much as we would like. So that's kind of what I got for that.
Are there any questions or comments at this time, beginning with Senator Mahoney?
What kind of thing, can you talk a little bit more about the publication and like what is in it?
Yeah, so the club puts out a publication which has articles from different experts in their fields about their research and what's going on in that area, and also different like studies on how to like increase sustainability, specifically with water and soil. So that's why we want to put it in like town where civil engineering and construction is, or in most of the ag buildings. But it's mostly a compilation of articles from different people that are extremely experienced in their field, whether it be from our university or others. We've reached out to them, communicated with them, and actually will have 50 copies that we send to each, or send one copy to each author. But it's mostly just a compilement of many different articles based on people's research. So.
And also, I will yield some time to Finance Director Hirsch.
Yeah, so basically, for you guys who are not aware of Finance Committee, we have PNC, which is our priorities and criteria, and that kind of dictates how we're able to give funding or not. And so one of the requirements for publications is printing will only be considered for an organization whose main purpose is distributing publications. And so that's a question that'll have to be asked to Senator Cecil by the Senate, and you guys have to determine whether or not that is their primary mission. Yeah, I yield.
So kind of in response to that, our club does two things, but they both serve the same purpose. The publication is about 75% of the club's total work, but it's the main goal. And then we also build water flow models, which are distributed to many different schools to demonstrate a lot of the principles that are discussed in the publication. And we do that to fund our publication mostly. So our fundraiser is demonstrating principles that we discuss in the publication that we print. We've never come to student government before. We've also been printing a lot less copies just because we were not aware of this as an opportunity for funding. And for the most part, we have fundraiser that works with selling of the models, but that's not always enough. So,
Senator Wellman.
How often, I have a question for Finance Director Marsh. How often do we finance publications, between different clubs?
Well, we're able to fund up to $3,000 per semester. There's not a set requirement for each publication. We're just able to spend, basically spend $3,000 per semester in printing costs. So it doesn't really matter how many publications they produce, it just matters the total cost. For example, we saw Cardinal East Day, and we saw their magazine. That would be an example of a club that does that. Same with Trend Magazine, for example. Sketch, yeah.
Be honest, I'm not really sure how I feel about this, but I yield. Thank you.
Senator Janes.
Yeah, I guess my first question would be, do you have plans in the future to, I don't know, advocate to student government to go through the regular budgetary ways to get that support, now that you do know?
Yes, definitely. So I have been a member of this club, but not very involved with it because I've been more involved in student government. But I became treasurer and found out that we actually have a decent amount of expenses and not necessarily the best budgeting strategy, which we're changing. But with our fundraiser, with what we aim to do this year, we would actually be very close on whether or not we could afford it, which makes it harder to have a fundraiser again next year just because we have to buy all the supplies. So in the future, I would definitely want to go a different route with how we fund it through student government just because of the short notice on whether or not we could go through student government is the reason that the bill's here today. So
Yeah. You brought up that you're going to try to implement strategies to improve the budget. Will you be there to help implement those strategies? Because you do say you kind of spend more time with student government.
Yes, I am reducing my time in student government because I am not as involved in leadership anymore, which is a good thing because I can focus on other things, and particularly my last year at school. But for people that have been in student government, they might be aware that I really like soils. I do a lot with it, so I really enjoy this club. I just haven't been able to spend the time, so now that I am treasurer, I intend to spend a lot more time with it. And yeah, I'm just working with the president, who used to be the treasurer, we're working through how we can budget things a little bit. So.
Yeah.
And my final question is, you vaguely touched upon this, I think, in a previous question, but how would this affect the club if this doesn't pass, and like how vital is it to create more publications or create publications?
So without student government funding, our goal would be at most 1,500 publications. So this would let us print about 500 more. And those would be distributed across campus to have a better reach just with students going into new careers and things like that to kind of push more conservation efforts and things like that. But without the funding, we'd reduce that because we do send it to public schools and lots of other places around Iowa just to have a greater impact. So we'd rather prioritize our like overall state impact if we were to fund this on our own.
All right. Got it. Thank you. I yield my time.
Senator Mahoney.
So one question I had for you, you guys haven't come to student government for funding before, correct? Finance Director Hirsch, do we know for sure if they're funding eligible?
That was one of the issues I brought up. That was one of the issues I brought up to Alex, or to Senator Cecil, that we may have to classify them in Senate. I didn't look at the list, but I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to classify them right now. I think they are funding eligible, but we should just, double check.
What does it mean to classify them for?
Yeah, okay, I can quickly explain. So there are 4 tiers of funding organizations, and it basically allows them to have less and less restrictions on what we can fund them. Priorities and criteria is the big document that more or less dictates, Senate ratifies it every year, more or less dictates the rules with which we will fund organizations. So funding eligible is like the first tier of stuff with like kind of the most rules, and then it goes to sponsored, and then it goes to partnered. And there's specific rules to be funding eligible. It's, where is it up? I had it right up here. Funding eligible organizations are consistent with the mission and culture of student government at the university and primarily engage in activities that benefit or interest their membership, have a primary interest group that are capable of functioning with minimal outside support, and satisfy the eligibility requirements. And there's a bunch of requirements. I'll be completely honest, without having a finance committee right now, and there being questions of the eligibility of both the organization and whether the publication itself is consistent with our PNC, I'm not necessarily comfortable funding this just because it's very, very serious to go against our PNC or have questions about it. In my opinion, it's one of our most critical documents, and we open ourselves up to considerable risk if we are flagrant with it or careless with it. I don't think I'm comfortable voting yes just when there's questions about PNC eligibility, if I'm honest. It sucked because the timing of it's just terrible, but without a finance committee and without Finance Director Hirsch being up to speed on everything, and just, I'm very hard pressed to ever have questions about PNC eligibility, so I don't think I'll be voting yes.
For this information, again, where would we find that document and want our first review, or is that something only finance committee can look at?
Yeah, if you just look up funding Iowa State student government, it should be like the first or second. First or second link. Yeah, and then you'll go into funding, and then you'll click PNC FY23, and then you'll be able to read it. And then PNC FY24 is the one we'll use next year. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Sorry, I was looking at the one that,
Okay, sweet. Yep.
Senator Kamstra.
So my main concern is not necessarily like eligibility, but I'm wondering how is this going to benefit all students? Could you like kind of elaborate on that a little bit? How this is going to like, I understand like this is advertising to like conserve like our water usage and stuff like that, and like those are great places obviously since it's going to apply to those majors the most. But like I'm just wondering how this is going to like apply to all students, and maybe that'll be beneficial to like classifying the organization as well.
Yeah, so our organization is not specifically affiliated to like a department on campus. It does end up falling into agronomy a lot solely because that's where pretty much everyone that deals with soils is, if they're not an engineer. But it benefits all students because it mostly just the raising awareness, but also it adds an avenue for them to find our club. We don't seem like the most exciting club if you're at Club Fest or whatever, because we just have a publication out, but we never print that many copies, so we rarely have that many on hand to actually distribute. So it's more just like a display piece. So just being able to print those extra copies would give us an avenue to actually open up to more students, just because we have lower numbers in attendance. We are struggling to have numbers, but that also hurts me a little bit there. But I think it benefits students in the same way that adding, you know, a bunch of trash compactors does, just because like it advocates for sustainability, it advocates for a better campus life, but it doesn't necessarily like tell a bunch of people to do that. It just is existing, so you can choose whether or not to use it.
So if we were to fund this, would these publications go out now, or would you wait till the next semester?
They would go out in August, but they would be printed now.
Okay, so I feel like it would, one, be beneficial to classify this organization first, like Senator Mahoney said, but I also feel like this would be a good thing to be seen by Finance Committee, because I don't know if KIT's Finance Committee saw this at all. Do you know, Finance Director Hirsch, if this went in front of KIT's committee at all?
They did not.
Okay, they did not. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at, because I'd love to see the people that we sat on that committee kind of have this conversation a little bit too, because they're a lot more qualified than I am with finances. So that's why I'll be voting no.
Yeah, we need to classify them in Senate. And so Colton has a list, or Senator Eisma has a list, and he knows how to do that.
Senator Eisma.
So just for explanation, we do this in Finance Committee with newer clubs and every year for budget allocations. And so right now, through the PNC, I'm going to ask underneath our general rules eligibility requirements. It's a whole list of bullet points that we have of funding eligibility requirements, and I'm just going to start listing them off. Is your organization officially recognized with student engagement?
Yes.
Is your organization open to all activity fee paying students and spouse card holders? Does your organization contribute or accept financial or material support to or from any political party or campaign?
No.
Obviously, your organization is not a part of, or is your organization a part of a college or resident area within student government constituency council, with the exception of United residents off campus?
Yes.
Does your organization have more than half of its members receive academic credit for membership?
No.
Does your organization receive funding from one or more academic departments?
No.
Does your organization primarily exist to assist students in attaining an internship or scholarship?
No.
Does your organization have a mission statement consistent or directed towards a particular academic program or major at Iowa State?
No.
And then that's the last question I was going to ask was, is your budget proposal organized by line items, all of which must have justification and specific cost estimate? That's just for budget allocations. If I remember clearly, they are funding eligible. Yep, so I make the motion to see them as funding eligible.
Second.
There's been a motion and second to see the Iowa State Soil and Water Conservation Club as funding eligible. Are there any objections at this time? Give us a second.
Please.
Yes.
We can't, if they meet funding eligibility requirements, we can't argue that. Like, we write PNC and that's like law.
point of information, with them now gaining that classification, is the argument now just on whether or not this publication is the club's primary thing?
That's what we're talking about now.
Okay, so we will now see the Iowa State Soil and Water Conservation Club per PNC as funding eligible. We are now back on the bill as a whole. Senator Larson.
Okay, so I know you said that if you got the money now, it would be published in the fall. So is all the information for the magazine like ready now? Like, do you have everything like compiled?
Yes, the magazine's ready. It's just distribution would occur over the summer, solely because with our articles and how we ask people to write them, we ask them in the fall and we get them in the spring. So we would publish now to distribute across the summer. And that's more of a factor of normally we're distributing across Iowa to different schools, so they're there when students arrive kind of thing. In the future, we would definitely look to change that just so it'd be available on campus sooner. But
Are there any further questions?
I just want to add, I'm not 100% sure we can fund this, and the main reason why is like you look at Trend Magazine, their main purpose, right, is to create this magazine, not anything else. I know you talked about earlier how you build stuff. I'm really not a agronomy guy, but you'll build things, and you also do other things besides create distribute a publication, and that's where I kind of have an error with, like, kind of have an issue with it. I think maybe it could be a discussion for committee next year, but as of right now, I don't feel comfortable with it.
Senator Larson.
How much would it affect your club if we pushed it off until next year if it wasn't published now?
I'm not entirely sure. We probably wouldn't come to student government for this year's issue, but we just consider this done. But we would come back for next year with changes, because now we know this is a route.
Are there any further questions or comments at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Closing comments with Speaker Margaret. Are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, as it is a finance bill, we will go into a roll call vote. Beginning with Senator Mominy. No. Senator Kamstra? No. Senator Chenoweth? No. Senator Mahoney? No. Senator Everhart? No. Senator Janes? No. Senator Eisma? No. Senator Kuehler? No. Senator Agba? By Speaker Agba. No. Speaker Margaret?
Move me down.
Senator Wellman?
No.
Senator Senadel? Senator Larson?
No.
Senator Huntington?
No.
Speaker Margaret?
No.
With a vote of 0 to 14 to 0, this bill fails. We will now be moving on to 2023-1-009F, funding the Iowa State Soil and Water Conservation Club, with Speaker Margaret.
Once again, I believe Senator Cecil would like to speak on this, so Thank you very much. I move to waive first read with no objection.
There has been a motion and second to move first read with no objection. Are there any objections? With seeing no objections, we will consider it having gone through first read.
Thank you, Senator Mahoney, and now I yield to Senator Cecil.
Firstly, I agree with your all's vote. It's my job as treasurer to ask for more money. So, secondly, this bill is up because our international convention is in Des Moines this year, and so the club would like to send as many people as would like to go, which is 6 members, and it moves around every year, so it's nice that it's here because it's mostly 4 days of a lot of different speakers talking about interests of people in the club, and we would like to cover the fee to register, which is $250 per person. Student government would only cover up to $100 of that, so they'd be covering $600 because there are 6 people, and we'd cover the remainder. And then there is also travel down to Des Moines in there, but only 1 round trip. It's 4 days, and rather than paying for hotels, we figured it'd be cheaper to just commute since it's at the convention center down in Des Moines. So.
The floor is now open for any questions or comments.
This is a clarification to the finance director. I noticed that there was just a mark saying that we couldn't cover transportation to Des Moines International Airport. Does that cover anywhere else in Des Moines or just the airport?
Just the airport, but we will have to make a couple amends on the floor. So, oh yeah, sorry.
No, he's good. Yep, you're good. Okay.
So I got different numbers than you guys did for the transportation. So basically how we do it is we fund to and from using the shortest mileage from, like, I just typed in Iowa State University to the center in Des Moines, and I got 34.3 miles one way, times it by 2. I got 68.6, times at our current vehicle rate for a minivan is what you guys would need because it's the lowest that we'll fund, which is 38.416. I divided that by 3 because we'll fund up to a third. And then I got $12.81. So right now it's...
So the difference in mileages there is it was routed from Agronomy Hall, not Iowa State as a whole. So just slightly different mileage.
I think we've just done Iowa State University. Yeah, I believe in the past we have just done Iowa State University, not the Pacific building that you guys are leaving out of.
That's fine. I was just sitting in that building when I routed it. It wasn't really
No worry. Yeah.
Do we have a motion for these amendments? Okay, these amendments have... The amendments that are currently being typed have been moved and seconded. Are there any objections to passing them at this time? Seeing none, they have been adopted. We are now back on the bill as a whole. Are there any further questions or comments at this time? Question has been called for and seconded. Closing comments? With seeing no closing comments, are there any objections to voting at this time? Seeing none, it is a finance bill, so we will go into a roll call vote. Beginning with Senator Mominy. Senator Kamstra. Yes. Senator Chenoweth. Yes. Senator Mahoney. Yes. Senator Everhart. Yes. Senator Janes. Yes. Senator Eisma. Yes. Senator Kuehler. Yes. Vice Speaker Agba. Yes. Speaker Margret. Yes. Senator Wellman. Yes. Senator Senadel. Yes. Senator Larson. Yes. Senator Huntington.
Yes.
With a vote of 14 to 0, congratulations, this bill passes. Okay, we will now be going into closing comments, beginning with our advisor, Sophie.
Just a few things. Congratulations through making it through your last meeting. If you were seated, congratulations to your positions. And if you are new to the organization, probably today new, if you could come see me after the meeting so Emily and I can get you on all the things, it'd be greatly appreciated. And if you are a chief officer, if you also could come over here at the end, I'd greatly appreciate it. Good job, everybody.
Okay, President Roberts.
Hi, guys. Well, that wraps up first session. It was very short, but good job. A few things. One, everybody should be in the teams. If you're not, please let me know. The MIS, it's just an Excel sheet basically with all our contact information, is in there under general. Please make sure your contact information is updated, one, so Sophie can add you to the door, but two, because we're about to leave for the summer, so ensuring that we can still communicate with each other. And then just as we go into the new year, remember, Senate's every Wednesday, 6 to 10. We used to require 2/3 seated as quorum. We don't require that anymore, but it's very important here at Senate. I understand life happens, but we're here every week. It's once a week that we hang out. So please remember that as we go in the next year. And then finance rules, there's still some open seats. As directors get seated, there's gonna be other committees. So start figuring out what you wanna do. And we'll seat some people to university committees that meet over the summer as well. Other than that, have a great summer, guys.
Are there any other closing comments? Seeing none, I guess it's my turn. I guess I just wanted to say congratulations on a good first session, which was 2 meetings. A lot of learning curve. Tonight was definitely a major learning curve for everybody, including myself. So congrats to all of us, and please stay in touch over the summer. Let us know if you have anything you need ever. Just because school is out does not mean I will not be checking my email or Teams or phone. So please reach out if you ever need anything, StuGov related or not. But with that being said, I look forward to coming back to see all of your lovely faces here in the fall. And Vice Speaker Adba.
I'd like to thank you all for being here for our last meeting of spring 2023. I love seeing the engagement in Senate that our new senators have put forth thus far. Speaking of which, Speaker Margaret and I would like to meet the new senators after the session, if you have time. Regarding office hours, there's no requirements for office hours next week and the week after, but the office will be available if you would like to visit. If you have yet to complete your office hours this week, please do so. Please log your hours on the document located in the MIS on Teams. Regarding the mentor program, this will be established in the fall semester as we continue to get our committees developed and more senators on board, hopefully. With that, I encourage all senators to continue talking with their constituents, student councils, and clubs to reach out for potential candidates. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I just want to again echo thank you for, hi. Thank you all for being here. Congratulations for being part of Senate this year. It really does mean a lot that you attend these meetings because we do important things and we do sometimes run into sticky situations where we have to postpone until we have enough people to do things. So again, thank you for bearing with us tonight. We did a lot of amending and postponing and tabling, and then we did some more amending, and we kept that cycle going. Some of that was just unfortunate circumstance, but thank you for being here. We passed a lot of important things tonight, and a lot of work will be able to be done because of the people that we put into their positions tonight, so we did a great job on that. I'll reiterate, MIS, that's very important. That's how we know how to get in contact with you. That's how we make better versions of these for the fall that aren't paper. Yeah, so this is the last Senate. Happy summer, I guess. Summer's a great time to be thinking about projects we want to be working on as senators, and it's a great time to be thinking about what committees we want to join. So Vice Speaker Agba and I are definitely still here to help you. We want to help you make those connections. And it's important to remember that summer is a large part of our terms because our terms go a lot quicker than we might imagine. And so thinking about those things and taking small steps over the summer, even though we're all busy, is incredibly important. So with that, we do want to see all the new senators tonight. Just introduce ourselves, and we'll be over with our advisor for that conversation. And with that, motion to adjourn, go Cyclones.
There's been a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting. Are there any objections? Seeing none, this meeting has been adjourned.